Now more than ever, innovative technologies are fueling change and sparking new ways of thinking. Collaboration between corporations and startups is key to staying at the forefront of these trends. However, finding the right startups can be expensive, time-consuming, and ineffective. But Plug and Play is here to help. As a corporate partner, you will gain access to a whole ecosystem of innovation. Discover startups that meet your tech interests. Stay updated on the latest trends and network with industry peers. We will help you during every stage of your innovation journey, no matter where you are and where you want to go. Get in touch today.
Hello everyone, I'm really excited to host you today. Today is the second day of our Italian Summer Summit. We'll be showing you sustainability startups, and I hope you enjoy all of them. Sustainability is really important to us because the legacy we show today will be for our children tomorrow. I hope that Andrea, who will be hosting you for the rest of the day, will do a great job, and I am really excited for you all to see the startups of the day.
Thanks a lot, Sina, for your words, and welcome back to everyone, or hello, depending on whether you attended the session yesterday or not. And as you know, my name is Andrea Zorzetto, and I'm the managing partner for Plug and Play in Italy. And as I was saying, this is the Italy Summer Summit running yesterday and today. So yesterday we had the Food and Beverage Expo, whilst today is the turn of sustainability. And well, I guess that some of you dialing in today have already participated yesterday. And so I'm going to say, of course, some of the things we were talking about yesterday, but also a huge surprise at the end. No, joking. It's the same introduction as yesterday, more or less. But of course, more focus on sustainability. In terms of the agenda, either in the keynotes and the usual pitch sessions, we'll have the award to the best startup. A very interesting pilot story that I really recommend you pay attention to. Very concrete example of what open innovation is all about. And then, of course, a networking session at the end. And so, as we usually do, we always start from our history and our long-term perspective as an open innovation platform. Also because it's a very fast-moving sector, and it's very interesting to see how things change in just a couple of years. You know the history of our LAC building with the Google, PayPal, and then Dropbox in Palo Alto, how we started the venture capital arm, and then the open innovation platform about 10 years ago. And then, of course, the international expansion, including the Italian office. And I have to say also, as you can see from this slide, that sustainability is an incredibly important vertical for us, one of the most widespread at the international level, and so we're also very proud to cover it in Italy with great partners. And actually, despite the pandemics and all the disruptions of last year, over the last 18 months by now, we kept growing internationally. And speaking of sustainability, the first year of the Alliance to End Plastic Waste program has been very successful. We ran 3 batches in Silicon Valley, Paris, and Singapore. And this year, we also expanding them to Johannesburg, Sao Paulo, and Shanghai. So just to prove how much we're investing into the sustainability space, and also how much attention it's catching between investors and corporates and everyone, really. Of course, we do this thanks to our infrastructure, that it's not just about the physical offices, but also well, our people, of course, but Playbook, our digital database where we record the startups and also their interactions with our partners. And then on top of that, all of our programs and activities. And speaking of that, just to give you a few numbers, we're over the 500 mark in terms of world-leading corporations that work with us. It was about 400 in 2019, so last year we had a bump of almost 25%. Big increase also in terms of the number of startups accelerated. Again, 1,500 in 2019, we went over 2,000 last year. And of course, all happened digitally, but this is to show that we didn't stop, and actually we did more, and also thanks to startups and corporates. You can see more than 1,000 DIFO sessions in the US alone. So very big results and a lot of activity going on. And of course, you know that as well as an open innovation platform, we're one of the world's most active early stage investor, and more than 162 were the startups that got an investment for us last year, to be precise. And of course, those are the international numbers, but what's going on at the Italian level, you might ask. And so just to recap, you've seen this slide before. This is our strategy for the Italian market. Number one, we want to make sure that open innovation delivers results, that it's actually useful for both corporates and startups. And just in sustainability, and we've been running this only since the beginning of 2020, we've seen 24 pilots happening. And as you know, with 2 corporate partners engaged from the beginning, and A2A and Buzzi Unicem, so that's a very important result for us. And now, of course, we also have Poste Italiane as an ecosystem partner. And leverage our assets. This is about our international footprint and the fact that matchmaking to be actually worthwhile for our partners has to be done on an international scale. And we're proud to say that out of the more of 300 startups introduced to our sustainability partners, 80–85% come from abroad. And of course, great Italian startups are also represented. And then moving on to the last 2 objectives is about building traction, reaching a certain critical mass, because of course, the more corporate partners we have, the more startups we can attract, and the other way around. And it's also useful for corporate partners across different verticals to interact within each other and find ways to collaborate and sharing best practices on how to approach open innovation. We've seen a number of engagements and meetings over the last year in those terms. And so you see in a moment on the next slide how we're increasing our network, expanding our network here in Italy. And of course, very important to us as an investor, we also want to focus on the verticals, on the sectors where Italy has a strong track record. And so about that, of course, you're familiar with the food, fintech, and sustainability programs and the partners that are part of them. Facebook is a new activity that we've worked on the last months, and now we're fully launching with our Singapore colleagues. So we're collaborating with Facebook and Asia Pacific level and also in EMEA. So very happy to launch this platform with them. And also you might have heard in the news, the automotive program we started in Modena with CRIT and institutional investors, CDP, UniCredit, and Fondazione di Modena, and a wide host of corporate partners, including anchor partners Marelli and ST Microelectronics. But then, as you can see from the slides, a lot of key industrial and automotive players. So we're very happy that at every summit that we host here in Italy, we're adding some programs or logos of corporate partners to this slide. And this shows the traction we have in the Italian market. And it's also, of course, one of the main measures of success that we have. But moving on to more details on the sustainability batch that we hosted this spring, 57 were the startups in the elite list. So that's the list that we send to the corporate partners based on their interest areas, out of which they selected 22 to pitch at the selection day earlier in February. And out of that, 15 startups were selected to run pilots with the corporate partners. And in terms of focus, these are the 4 areas that, as you might know, have been quite key from the beginning. So sustainable industrial operations and energy and climate, the most represented, but also, of course, water and air and circularity. And so, of course, we're happy also as a general thought that despite the pandemic, sustainability remains very high on the agenda. You might have read, as I did, the book by Bill Gates, which I recommend. I know it's not what Bill Gates is in the top news for anymore in the recent weeks, but that is a very interesting book that gives an overview of the challenge that we have in getting to zero emissions by 2050. But it's not just that. In the last few weeks, we've also heard the role of activists, investors, shareholders, and courts in trying to push the big oil industry into transitioning to a more sustainable future. So it remains a very important topic, and it's also actually one of the focus of the Recovery Fund. And so if last year we were wondering whether COVID would take attention away from the issue of sustainability, I think we can be very happy to say that it's not the case. And so this is also reflected in our focus areas. And of course, this is a global effort, and we were saying this before. As usual, we have startups from North America, from Israel, and the wider Europe area. So having said that, this was my part, and of course, I wish good luck to all the startups pitching, and looking forward to hearing all the interventions today. Thanks for listening and participating as usual. And now I'll hand it over to Arianna that will give you more details on today's sessions. Thank you.
A warm welcome also from my side. I'm Arianna, and I'm the Corporate Partnership and Program Manager at Plug and Play in Italy, which means that I'm supporting our corporate partners in driving internally innovations, defining the startup program and activities for our wider community. And I'm so honored to be here in such an important day for our activities in Italy. But first and foremost, we need to thank our corporate partners, our anchor partners, A2A and Buzzi Unicem, and our ecosystem partner, Poste Italiane, who have been working relentlessly with our startups. And then, of course, I want to thank our Sustainability Spring 2021 batch startups. You're going to hear from them later, but they work in the energy and climate space, sustainable industrial operations, circularity, and water and air segments. But the program would not be such without amazing speakers. And I would like to thank the 10 workshop speakers who have been supporting our startup and lighting them with lots of content, and our 14 mentors who have been really working closely with all of them in order to support them, sharing insights and valuable advices. But before we start, probably you guys don't know, but we've been launching a pre-acceleration program named Sparks. It's a program that lasts 5 months, equity and fee-free. And the idea here is to really support students and early stage startups in defining and helping them in validating and executing their idea at the very early stage. And we're supporting them through mentorship, workshops, and networking activities with our wider Plug and Play network, being them professors, being them corporates, being them venture capital. And I'm telling you this because you will hear shortly also a pitch from one of our startups who have joined our program. But what is really happening today, you must be wondering. So our day today is going to be divided in 3 parts. We're going to kick off with an inspirational talk by Massimo Temporelli. I don't know if you've ever listened to Fucking Genius, but I think you're going to be doing that right after this event. We're going to follow on, and we're going to invite on stage Patrick Ong from A2A, with whom we're going to discussing how A2A is approaching the energy transition through innovation. And of course, we cannot be missing startup pitches, so you're going to start hearing from some of them. And there's going to be a little surprise for you before the break. We're going to then move to the second part of the day. We're going to start with another keynote speaker, and Mark Workman is going to be telling us how he thinks we can all work in reaching the net zero. I would love to welcome then on stage Massimo Perez from Buzzi Unicem Group, with whom we're going to see and listen how they're really trying to reduce the CO2 emissions within their company. And then, of course, more pitches from startups. But after hearing about startups and corporates, we're also going to have the opportunity to hear directly from A2A and Grey Parrot how they've been implementing one of their pilots in the past year. And then we will be moving to the third part of today's agenda. We're going to start with another fireside chat. I would love to welcome on stage Alessandro Leonardi from Poste Italiane, who's going to tell us about the 8 pillars that Poste has decided to implement in their sustainability strategy for the years ahead. You might not know yet, but we've been working behind the scenes to support Vincenzo Emanuele Giardina in writing a book, and so we will be presenting it to you. We're going to be then welcoming on stage our startups from the Sparks program, and we will have the opportunity to vote and to see who's going to be the winner of the Startup Award for today. Parallelly, and before the networking session, since this morning we'll be having a sustainable finance event together with our Frankfurt colleagues, you will have also the opportunity to listen to Christian Nolting from Deutsche Bank about ESG. And then finally, you will have the opportunity to really listen and talk and interact directly on a one-to-one basis with our fantastic startups. So I hope you're going to enjoy the day, and welcome to our Summer Summit for the Sustainability Expo. And it's now time to kick off the first part of today's agenda. And I would love to welcome on stage Massimo Temporelli, a physicist and a person that has been working for the past 20 years in sharing knowledge regarding science, technology, and innovation. Massimo, the floor is yours.
Hi everyone, my name is Massimo Temporelli. I'm a physicist, an entrepreneur, and a tech teller. After my degree in physics, I started to work at the National Museum of Science and Technology here in Milan for more than 10 years. From 2000 to 2010, I was the curator of the Department of History of ICT, Information Communication Technology. There I studied and cataloged and exhibited a big collection, a huge collection of masterpieces in the history of ICT. Original pieces by Alexander Graham Bell, Antonio Meucci, Thomas Alva Edison, Guglielmo Marconi, but also the more contemporary ones like Adriano Olivetti, Steve Jobs, and Tim Berners-Lee. My work there at the museum was not just technical. In that period, I started to see technologies in a new way. No longer as a scientist, but as an anthropologist. And I focus my attention on the relationship between humans and devices. I'm convinced that humans design technologies and technologies design our humanity. This is my point of view. That's why I think it's important to study technologies, to study our relationship with technology. In 2010, I left the National Museum of Science and Technology, and after a brief experience in a big company as a consultant, in 2012, I founded my startup, the Fablab, a lab in which we use new technology as a 3D printers, laser cutter, CNC milling machine to change the way in which we design, we produce, and we sell goods, physical products. In the last 10 years, I have also written some books. I've created some podcasts, all books and podcasts about science, technology, and innovation. And so what I'm going to say today, it comes from this, my last experience. In particular, today I'm going to talk about innovation, the rules of innovation. I will give you just 5 rules for being innovative or to try to be innovative. Okay, let's start. First rule, context. Innovators don't work alone. This picture represents perfectly this rule. The player cannot reach the ball without the help of others. In the same way, an innovator cannot reach his goal without the help of others. Innovation comes from the meeting between talent and context. I often say Leonardo da Vinci would not exist without the Italian Renaissance. And also Steve Jobs would not exist without the Silicon Valley. Albert Einstein or Marie Curie would not exist without the crisis of physics at the end of 18th centuries. And more important, we cannot create talent because talent is genetic, but we can create the right context where talent can grow. This is very important. This is our responsibility as educators, as entrepreneurs, as a manager. This is first rule, context. Take care about the context in which we live and where we want to innovate. This is the first rule. The second rule is about youth. Innovators are young. If you study the history of innovation, you will find that the average age of the greatest innovators is 25. And more in general, all the new great ideas, all the greatest cultural revolutions in the history come from women and men between the age of 20 and 30. I say that against me, but this is an important rule to know. Albert Einstein was 25 years old when he discovered the theory of relativity. Steve Jobs was 20 years old when he founded his company, Apple. Maria Montessori was 27 when invented her famous educational method. And for instance, Sergey Brin and Larry Page were 25 years old when they founded Google. I would like to show you this picture. These are not the faces of creativity and innovation. These are the faces of innovation. We are innovation. But let's focus on the rule number 3, exploration. To be innovative, we have to explore. Also in this case, once again, easy to say, hard to do. This is a perfect picture of this concept. To be an explorer means to get off the beaten track and forge a new path. Of course, you trip on the roots. Of course, you get slapped in the face by branches. But this is the way in which we can create new things. And Thomas Jefferson, one of the first United States president, once said, if you want something you never had, you have to do something you never done. This is the way in which humans make innovation. Okay, the first rule, the rule number 4, it's about make mistakes. Good innovators have a good relationship with mistakes. During an amazing inspirational lecture at the Pennsylvania University in 2015, Denzel Washington said to the young students, "Do you have the guts to fail?" This is the point. As I told you, to innovate, you have to explore. And if you do that, of course, you will fail. If you don't fail, you're not even trying. If you don't fail, you don't even try. Exactly. Innovation means make mistakes, fails, and try again. And finally, the rule number 5, change the rules. Also in this case, I have an amazing picture. This is Dick Fosbury, an high jumper. Before him, the high jump was like this. This was the high jump before Dick Fosbury, who in 1968 at Città del Mexico changed forever his sport. And of course, naturally, he won the Olympic game in this way. I don't know if you can, but I can imagine what the other athletes thought about Fosbury jump. They must have thought it was not allowed. It was not allowed. It broke the rule of his sport. it not was allowed. This is the point. Also in the world of innovation, when you do something new, you have to break the rules of the game. You have to change the paradigm completely. Okay, that's all. 5 rules for innovation. I hope you enjoy my suggestion. I hope you will be innovators and have a good future. Bye.
Well, Massimo, that was a great way to start our day today. And now we're going to move to our first and welcome on stage our first keynote speaker, Patrick Ong, Group Head of Innovation and Corporate Venture Capital at A2A, with whom we're going to be hearing about how is innovation really driving energy transition within the company. Patrick, the stage is yours.
There are 2 numbers we need to know about climate change. The first is 51 billion. The other is 0. 51 billion is how many tons of greenhouse gases the Earth typically adds to the atmosphere every year. And although the figure may go up or down a bit from year to year, it's generally increasing. This is where we are today. 0 is what we need to aim for. This is how Bill Gates starts its latest masterpiece, How to Avoid the Climate Disaster. And I want to start from this vision to share with you how A2A is going to contribute to this challenge in the next 10 years. A2A is a company with more than 100 years of history. Today we are a group with more than 12,000 employees, an EBITDA of 1.2 billion and an installed capacity of power of 9 gigawatts. In terms of business as a multi-utility, we cover many different businesses. We work on the energy generation side, we work on distribution, we sell electricity, gas, heating services. We manage water cycle and we manage the waste cycle. And we try to turn material into new life according to a circular material approach. We call ourselves a life company. With the launch of our new 21-2030 business plan, we decided to reposition A2A and its brand. The aim was to define a new brand playground with a clear purpose that would reflect the tangible and intangible values of the company. The reason is that A2A deals with energy, water, the environment, so it takes care of those conditions necessary for life and the quality of life. This is what we call a life company. For the first time ever, our plan is a 10-year plan that is concentrated to solve and address challenges related to 2 main pillars. Circular economy. Simplifying the concept, this means trying to extract value from what is typically considered waste. So actually find an alternative way to commit waste to landfill or burn waste. Think as providing at least a second life to a product and try to find a third and so on until the real end of life. The second pillar is energy transition. This is a very large umbrella that covers domains related to green energy production, sustainable mobility, electrification of consumption, and many others. This means that we do business solving critical environmental challenges. And innovation, I think, that play a key role on achieving progress on those topics. The strategy of A2A to 2030 is focused on developing the production and use of green energy by accelerating the decarbonization and promoting the electrification of consumption. The challenging objectives related to decarbonization and reduction of emissions compel us to accelerate the energy transition from fossil fuels to renewables. That the referred decide to remain aligned with the emission reduction targets set out by the Science Based Target Initiatives, achieving a 37% decrease compared to 27, and in line with the global warming containment trajectory below 2 degrees Celsius. This is why to achieve this, one of the priority of our energy transition is the development of new energy renewable sources, which make up the 58% of the group's net production by 2030. So A2A generation capacity from renewable will reach 5.7 gigawatts, thanks to over 4 billion in investments and acquisition in solar and wind. But we know that decoupling energy production from consumption with storage facilities is crucial for transition to renewable energy. And in order to shift to a fully renewable and sustainable energy industry, we need to combine energy demand and intermittent production of renewable with efficient and cost-effective ways to store renewable energy. This is why our innovation program is very focused on understanding what are the best technology that can store energy produced from renewable and discharge and release them when energy is needed. The good news is that the same gas, the CO2, that is producing a bad effect on the environment, at the same time seems to be a perfect fluid to store energy. This is a story of Energy Dome, an Italian brilliant company we discovered through plug-and-play program that built a long-duration energy storage. Well, Energy Dome patented a very interesting process that stored energy through CO2 state conversion in a cost-effective way and within a closed thermodynamic process. In the charging mode, the CO2 is compressed and stored under pressure at the ambient temperature in high density supercritical or liquid state. When energy has to be released to the grid, the CO2 is expanded into a turbine and stored back in the atmospheric gas holder dome, ready for the next charging cycle. What is interesting that of this innovation is that the innovation is in the process. So actually, technology is almost already available and on the shelf. And but in terms of competition, the technology seems to be a valuable alternative to lithium battery that we know that are very competitive within a range of 1 to 4 hours. With this technology, we aim to achieve a 10 hours time discharging time. So very interesting alternative to lithium. Another interesting way of thinking to renewables energy is trying to go beyond sun and wind and turn the industrial waste heat into a new source of energy. This is actually what Craft Block does. They provide an eco-friendly, patented thermal energy storage that is able to store waste heat up to 1,200 degrees. Well, the storage uses no air material, so it up to 85% are recycled material. So, and the store it can then be moved where the heat is needed. So, enabling new ways of thinking to heat provisioning, completely decoupled from an infrastructure or integrated with it. But while we had to, let's say, rebalancing our energy mix within our contribution of renewables, we have to cope with the emission that our plants still produce. This is why energy transition should be accompanied with carbon capture technologies that try to neutralize or at least reduce the impact of plants emissions. According to EU allowance, a company can buy the right to emit 1 ton of CO2. But the question is, what if instead of paying to emit, we can find alternatives and technology that, with a solid business case, provide us an alternative to emit? However, what we can do with the captured CO2? Could this feedstock open new business opportunity for us? So this is what we are exploring right now. So both scenarios, the capturing side and the utilization side. Discover for PMP an interesting UK-based company, Carbon Clean Solution, that tried to transform conventional technologies to capture CO2 with a modular solution, containerized, that could store CO2 at a competitive cost of 30 euros per ton. The target cost became relevant as the EU allowance trade unit increased the price unit during the last months and are expected to grow more in the upcoming years. Another challenge we are facing in the energy transition is to accompany the electrification of consumption. Considering electricity as the main energy vector means investing to sustain the growth of the national electricity system. This is why we have a plan of investment in the electricity grid that worth 1.9 billion of to the 2030. And a large proportion of those resources will be dedicated to build new substations. So 13 in the primary side and over 1,000 for secondary, so the substation. You know that municipalities are facing a rapid increase in the electricity consumption. More than 55% of the world's population live in urban areas and consume nearly 75% of the global primary energy supplies. So we have to accommodate this continuously growing population also with infrastructure. To address this challenge, we recently supported our colleagues in solving this, in trying to solve this issue, and we try to accelerate the deployment of secondary substations, considering the constraints we have in urban contexts. And we did it launching a public call to collect solutions from around the world to engineer and build a brand new concept of earthing compact substation. We tried to dramatically reduce the occupancy at about 3 times compared to the state of the art, and adding remote management and trying to lowering the operational cost. For this collective intelligent process, we got 30 proposals from around the globe, and we rewarded one coming from Turkey that is now under patent filing process as we got the IP transfer. I'm pretty confident that energy transition can be accelerated through the role of innovation. And the more we are able to break the mold, the more the impact on the environment will be higher. This is why we have to continuously early spot and understand what are the impactful trajectory driven by technology progress. And working with PMP, we believe, is a valuable way to achieve this goal. But we know that to make things happen and turn strategic intent into actions, companies need tools to get a job done. This is why during the last 6 months, we struggled to find a way to be agile in turning approved ideas into execution. So we challenge ourselves to find a way to work with startup, acting as startup would love to. We came out with a startup-centric approach with a very light process that help us in onboarding in a few click startups in a full digital experience. No more paper, and just a few steps to jump into our ecosystem. The second very important change is that we directly source and contract startups. This big change into our procedure that involve procurement only after the POC phase enable us to sign contract in less than 1 week. We introduce also important changes in the financial side. So we pay at 30 days and we can provide upfront up to 50% of the cost of the project. So before leaving the floor to other speaker, I want to say thanks to PMP. If I look at ourselves 1 year ago, I can definitely see that thanks to this strategic partnership, we have the chance to build a positive track record this year. So guys, we are just at the beginning, but I expect to do more with you in 2021. So big challenge also for you. And I want to say thanks also to our colleagues from business line and my dream team, innovation, that working in extraordinary synergy with the business, building very promising opportunity for our group. So many thanks for the time, and have a good summer summit. Bye.
Thank you so much, Patrick. And it's now time to move into the startup pitches and welcome them on stage. But before we start, where after each and every pitch, you will see popping up a poll for you to vote a startup. Remember, through your votes, we're going to be assigning also the startup awards. But moving, we are going to have the first startups working into the industrial sustainable operation space. And the first startup to pitch today is going to be ZaaK Technology. And I would like to welcome on stage Vincent. Vincent, stage is yours.
Hello, everybody. My name is Vincent Kaminski, and I'm here to present to you ZaaK Technologies and our product LiPos, a smart construction material. Who is ZaaK Technologies? ZaaK Technologies is a green tech company based in Berlin, Germany, and was founded by Dr. Abbas Khan. Our mission and business is to upcycle industrial waste and byproducts into value-added construction materials and to foster a circular economy thinking. The vision we are aiming for is no less than creating a new standard for engineered sand and becoming a global leader for upcycling industrial and waste byproducts. But what does ZaaK Technologies actually do? Years ago, our managing director and founder, Abbas Khan, realized that there is one solution for 2 global problems: One problem is the excessive consumption and mining of sand. The other global problem is the disposal of industrial waste and byproducts. With ZaaK's upcycling technology, we have found a solution to mitigate the impacts of these two global problems. Let me explain it to you. At the beginning of our product value chain, you have the industrial producers generating different types of waste. These waste streams can be, for example, ashes from hard coal or brown coal power stations, ashes from waste incineration plants, or bauxite residue from alumina producers. ZaaK takes these wastes and upcycles them into a premium construction material called lipos. Lipos, a fine, lightweight aggregate or artificial sand, can then be used for the production of various construction materials, such as lightweight concrete. These products are then sold to other construction material manufacturers, to dealers or building contractors. But the great thing about lipos is that we are able to influence the parameters of the engineered sand. We can alter the form, the porosity, the size, and also the color. Therefore, it is possible to tailor lipos to individual customer needs, which make it possible to adapt it to a broad field of applications. You can use lipos for the production of concrete, for blocks, for roof tiles, plasters, and many different types of mortars. Here in these pictures, you can see how lipos based on bauxite residue looks like on the right side. So this is why the material has the reddish tone. And on the left side, you can see lipos and a construction material which is made out of lipos, a ready-mixed concrete block. But lipos as a construction material has many other advantages too. Lipos consists out of waste and byproducts, making it an environmentally friendly and sustainable construction material. Lipos offers excellent thermal insulation properties, which leads to a reduction of CO2 emissions in buildings. And further, through its low weight, construction materials made out of lipos result in time saving at the construction site, but especially in fuel and cost savings in transportation. With this solution, ZaaK meets the high demand in the construction industry for building sand, and at the same time enables value-added processing of industrial waste and byproducts. With its excellent thermal insulation properties, the high compressive strength, the low dead weight, lipos opens up new possibilities of ecological building. I hope I could give you an overview of our business and our product. We would like to get to know you, students, experts, or corporates, and we look forward for any cooperation. So feel free to reach out to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vincent. And it's now time for Ario, and I would like to welcome Jason from the US.
Hello, my name is Jason Griffith with Ario Technologies. We're a company that focuses really on the ability to help individuals in complex work environments enable their employees to be able to navigate the world with clarity and confidence. When we look at our problems that we typically solve, it's between an individual and data. In this scenario, you have a person on the left-hand side that's in a complex work environment. You have another individual on the right-hand side, but that person doesn't have to be actual individual. It can be content, information, data, but the bottom line is the individual on the left needs to gain that information. And so with that being said, some of the major use cases that we work within, utilizing augmented reality to spatially document complex work environments, is downtime, confusion and uncertainty and wasted time. And then we oftentimes see a byproduct, which is we impact in a positive measure turnover rates as far as churn levels in employees. And then also the ability to gain tribal knowledge that we're losing from retirees that are leaving the workforce. With that being said as well, we also focus on initial training as well as continuation training, a part of our platform, to be able to quiz and test and regain knowledge that has been lost or that is continually needing to be updated. based on the employee's needs. But where we really focus and help is boosting productivity, sharing knowledge, and then reducing errors on those work floors. The three major industries that we typically work in is manufacturing, power and utility, and then logistics. We have two sides to our platform. The first being Ario Connect, which is our remote expert assistance, which is a calling feature that's available on iOS, Android, and desktop. The second is Ario, which is our main platform, which is spatially documenting complex work environments with placing augmented reality placed information points within those environments. With that being said, this is currently only available on iOS, but is soon to be brought to Android, probably at the beginning of Q3, end of Q2. So more to come on that. But through this process, you're able to build tasks, checklists, and courses and place those into an environment to be found by the end user and the frontline worker. But with that being said, most of our customers find up to about a 35% faster rate when completing tasks and checklists and courses and just general workflows, whether planned or unplanned scheduled downtime or maintenance needs. But with that being said, really our product and where we see ourselves is that we're very easy to manage and to create content. We're extremely fast to scale, and then we're a very secure platform utilizing AUCTA as our authentic single sign-on service. With that being kind of an overview as far as who Ario is, we'd love to have the opportunity to talk to you more in depth in regards to who we are and what we can do. Feel free to reach out, and this is just a start to getting the conversation started. Have a great day.
Thank you so much, Jason. And now I would like to pass the mic to Harry from Germany, who's going to introduce us to AUCTA.
All right. Hi, guys. I'm Henry. I'm one of the co-founders and CEO of AUCTA. To tell you about our company, I want to tell you about today's reality of industry training, which is a reality full of challenges. First of all, everyone is remote. So the only way to teach are video calls, which makes it almost impossible to teach skills that are physical. If you want to physically train today, quarantines, restrictions, and health risks are a barrier for training itself. And if we ever go back to normal, flying everyone into one place and teaching them in a training center like companies used to will be even more costly than before. So companies have to look for alternatives to teach essential skills. Now, today they actually have to make a decision. Do they go for e-learning or videos that scale, but they're not even close to reality? Or do they use 3D or VR or AR, which promise interactive and immersive experiences, but are costly and don't scale because they're bound to hardware? We made solving this problem our mission. Our technology bridges the gap between these extremes by being a fully scaling and adaptable 3D VR solution that works on all devices with a web browser. AUCTA is the world's first fully flexible 3D VR platform for industry companies. We enable the creation of content from the systems industrial companies already use, so nobody needs to learn anything new to work with AUCTA. We give them access to all content on a central management system or integrate directly into their own systems. And we give them full flexibility with our player that intelligently detects the device that's used and adapts the interaction with the content automatically. So let me show you an example of what this means. So please meet Greta. After weeks of trying to learn essential skills and processes from PDFs, manuals, or bad PowerPoint presentations at home, she's back to work and she struggles with the tasks that she was supposed to have learned by now. Luckily today, her company deployed AUCTA, which means instructions are pushed to her with a simple web link. She gets access to an intuitive and easy to understand 3D instruction. She interacts with the content and almost instantly applies what she's just learned. The power of AUCTA is this. Whenever training centers are open again, the content on our platform can instantly create immersive and interactive value on any VR or AR hardware that exists. This gives companies the flexibility to focus on the content and the value of the knowledge while gradually building the right hardware infrastructure for the right case. AUCTA, in the context of the company and use cases, acts as a layer between the data that they already own and the problems that they want to solve. By connecting not only the layers, but also the departments, AUCTA's platform content act like a nucleus that creates synergies across departments at scale. Once the content is created and deployed, it can be integrated into all other areas of business that could benefit from intuitive and easy to understand instructions. Now, the number one request we got from our clients was to be able to create interaction on top of the contents. They simply wanted to be able to connect to their employees and clients. We solved this with a simple feature in our player frontend. Anyone can generate a link to share and guide through the content to give context. The other person opens the link on any device at hand and is guided by the moderator. So he understands immediately. If needed, the roles can be reversed so that the other person can quickly replicate the knowledge to make sure everything is understood. We're currently focusing on selling to sales and after sales unit. We're targeting two main verticals right now. First, it's additive manufacturing, where we, for example, work with EOS and Ceramtech, who use AUCTA to deploy international service instructions. And we focus on the automated guided vehicle space, where we both work with Jungheinrich and Stillinde to transition their workforce into the digital age of the automated shop floors. So who are we? Well, I created this company with my former colleagues, Elias and Daniel, and we launched our product in the first version last summer. We're based in Berlin and Madrid. Last October, we raised €500,000 pre-seed from investors like Porsche Ventures or Investment Bank Berlin. We've grown our team now to 10 people and 20 plus expert partners that we work with. And we're actively working with partners like the University of Berkeley, Deloitte, Fester, or Salesforce. Very happy to be in touch after this event and hope you enjoy the day.
And we're going to stay again in Germany, and we're going to move and ask to Julian from Enway to present. Julian, stage is yours.
Hi, my name is Julian. I'm one of the co-founders and CEO of Enway. At Enway, we are building the software platform for autonomous utility machines or autonomous heavy machines. So how does the market for heavy machines look like? It's €150 billion markets annually. So that is, for example, sweeping, like the pictures that you see here, construction machinery, or service machinery. The example here is from a metal processing facility, and as you can see, drivers are exposed to dust, and it's in general a non-pleasant and dangerous environment. Unsurprisingly, that's the reason why less and less people want to do these jobs operating in dusty and unhealthy environments, leading, on the other hand, to high costs and quick job turnovers for companies. 80% of firms operating these types of machinery can't find the workforce they need, and 97% of young people that are entering today's job market don't want to work in heavy industries. At Enway, we are developing the software platform so that machines can operate autonomously itself without the need for a human driver. To do that, we partner with established machine manufacturers such as Stolzenberg or Bucher Municipal and help them to move from manual, typically diesel-powered machines to electric and autonomous machinery. Our machines are fully certified to operate on private ground. They do not need a human operator, and we really enable an end-to-end solution for machine manufacturers to build autonomous machines. Our first product is an autonomous industrial sweeper called B1, which is made for cleaning of industrial sites and private ground parking lots. The product is fully CE certified, so ready to go in Europe, and it's already operating at key customers such as Recital Group, which is one of the leading foam producers. So in case you're looking for an autonomous sweeping solution, or you would like to start an automation project to automate heavy machines, please reach out to me. I'm reachable at julian@enway.ai. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Julian. And now we're going to move to the US, and I would like to welcome Charles, introducing us to hiboo.
Hello, everyone. My name is Charles. I'm co-founder and CPO at hiboo, speaking from Paris. At hiboo, we build a data platform helping construction companies become better at two things: connecting and collecting all the equipment data and identifying opportunities of performance improvements to maximize productivity and profitability of every equipment in the fleet. Over the last first years of building hiboo, we've conducting a lot of user interviews with equipment managers, CEOs, maintenance team, and more. And we asked them simple questions regarding the equipment performance, such as what is the job site idling rate, or how do you measure your fleet usage rate? And do you know what's the most CO2 emissions, or how do you prevent downtime? And even how do you measure, let's say, a cycle payload? And the truth is today, most of these questions remain unanswered. And why? Among the many reasons, here are the three big pains we've identified. Most companies are still measuring manually equipment activities. 70% of employees actually feel overwhelmed when working with data. And there's a lack of data-driven decision-making. So the construction sectors needs its equipment data platform to finally enter the data-driven economy and beat some of the biggest challenges we already know so well, like cost overruns or meager productivity growth and big environmental impact. This is why we decided to build hiboo, to improve the way construction equipment and people work together by making equipment data accessible and meaningful. To do that, we built a product serving three main benefits. First, we are the easiest way to collect equipment data from any touch point without coding. And we guarantee the best data quality and decision-making with data science. Our system is responsible for parsing, enriching, or transforming metric data in flight. But let's illustrate this in the app. To start collecting my equipment data, I just select the brand I'm working with. And then I add my credentials. And in a couple of minutes, I access my inventory digital twin. Once your data is collected, the second part is of our product helps build strong KPI and dashboards. Anyone in the team is now able to learn and get answers about the equipment usage. Like, what is the fuel consumption of my fleet? Should I plan a maintenance? Or can I reduce my cycle time? And which job site has the most CO2 emission? Last but not least, we liberate data. With a single source of information, it becomes much easier to push value into your third-party systems, update maintenance plan, or trigger work orders. A quick example with SAP, with whom we recently partnered. hiboo collects all equipment data and trigger alerts. Then hiboo update maintenance schedule in SAP Asset Intelligence Network with the latest value. And then operators can organize and execute maintenance tasks in time. Business-wise, today we operate in three different sectors: construction, rental, and mining, with the unique goal to help them become better at managing their equipment operation. Most companies make the use of equipment data painful. Our customers love us for the exact opposite reason. We solve pain at getting all their equipment data, we unlock answers hidden in their equipment data, and we quickly accelerate their digital transition. Looking at the company, we are growing quite quickly. We collect on average 20% new tracked assets and 2 new data sources every month. And we are a SaaS application. We have a very simple business model based on the number of connected equipment. And to support companies in their green transitions, we are proud to announce a freemium plan offering key insights about fleet CO2 emissions. Of course, our biggest strength is obviously our team, skilled in data, expert in construction equipment, and with big goals, we are actually preparing a Series A. Thank you.
Thank you, Charles. We're going to stay in North America. We're going to just move across the border to Canada, and I would like to welcome Alex Damp, introducing us vGIS.
Hello and welcome. My name is Alec, and I'm the founder and CEO of vGIS. vGIS is the company dedicated to visualizing spatial data in mixed and augmented reality. Our company has strong partnerships with leading industry players, including Esri and Microsoft, and we won plenty of awards in this space for the work that we do with mixed and augmented reality and presenting spatial data in it. The main objective of our system is to let workers and let users interact with the digital twin at construction sites in regular municipal utilities environment in a completely different way. We want you to be able to take your digital twin, even if it exists only in the digital form, not physical form yet, or take a digital twin of the existing infrastructure and then visualize it using any available tool at your disposal to help you do your job faster, easier, and safer. We work with a variety of devices, including Microsoft HoloLens, traditional tablets and phones, and we bring digital twin from different formats, including GIS or BIM format, or even reality capture format to help field services achieve goals that they want to achieve. The main objective of the system is to reduce reliance on 2D maps. We believe that by providing information in accurate 3D through augmented and mixed reality, we can help workers gain instant situational awareness, avoid mistakes, find assets quicker, and understand complex relationship between different asset types. Our system draws information dynamically from municipal utilities and construction companies' databases. We connect to our client databases, and the models are generated on the fly. For example, the model that you see right now on the screen was created procedurally. So there's not a person who had to create this model. It's generated procedurally from the live data provided by our client. And all the color coding, symbology, and other elements are applied dynamically based on the rules defined by this client. The system allows you to interact with different objects within your digital twin model. And by tapping on an object, you can pull up all the attributes associated with that object. And if you are an Esri ArcGIS user, you can even update attributes or move and delete objects in the field. In addition to GIS data, which is what you saw on the previous slides, our system can let you bring BIM data from tools such as Bentley iTwin services or Autodesk BIM 360, or native upload of IFC, DWG, DXF files, so that you can view objects that are yet to be completed or work in progress, and you can compare them to the original designs. Last year, we added capabilities for visualizing LiDAR scans and 3D meshes with high accuracy on site as well. So this way, you can review excavations many years after they've been completed so that you can understand how the particular trench looked like when it was open. And our system can let you collect reality capture data with your regular phone or LiDAR-equipped phone. So to summarize, our system can bring data from multiple formats from different systems at once and push it to the end device in real time. What makes us unique is that we have highly accurate positioning options that let you deliver up to a centimeter level accuracy in the field, and we work with multiple providers, or we can work with GNSS-less mode to give you high accuracy of visuals in the field. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alexander. And now we're going to move into the second bracket of startups. The second topic is going to be water and air. And I would like to move and go to the Startup Nation, to Israel, and welcome Haggai, introducing us to Clairion.
Industrial air pollution is old news. Clairion's sustainable technology, transforming pollutants into valuable product, is breaking news. The need to treat air pollution is obvious. There are tens of thousands of polluting industries worldwide. And in most countries, emissions such as nitrogen oxides, sulfur oxides, mercury, and other heavy metals are regulated, and therefore companies are required to execute environmental policies. Most plants share the same challenges when implementing air pollution control technology. Environmental regulation is being updated, so factories must keep up. A dedicated system and different technology are required for moving each pollutant. And during the process, these systems generate waste streams and often secondary contamination, which requires treatment. Finally, these industries, whether for-profit companies or governmental entities, obviously struggle with budgetary or profit concern. Clairion's disruptive technology was developed precisely to address these challenges. So what is our unique technology? Modified special liquids using innovative processes to remove pollutants in a more efficient and comprehensive environmental manner. A technology that is fully scalable. Clairion has developed unique expertise in this technology that is protected by 6 different patents. Our innovative solutions are proven. We have demonstrated and tested them under real operational conditions in collaborations with leading energy groups. Now, let's clarify the process. The contaminated flue gas enters our device in which our absorbing liquid is continuously circulated. And when the liquid drops meet the gas, the magic occurs. The balloons are fully separated from the gas and locked within the liquid. And here comes the cool part. In parallel, for a selective separation process, the absorbed balloons are extracted as useful products with commercial value, such as fertilizers. And the liquid is regenerated and reused as part of the process. Now let's see how this would serve a typical emitting industry, in this case, a waste to energy plant, for instance. Here's the standard setup and byproducts with current air pollution control technologies. And here's the breakthrough when implementing the Clairion solution. So how do we address the mentioned challenges? With environmental technology that wasn't even possible until recently. We enable exceptional performance and readiness for future regulation as well. An integrated single multi-balloons removal solution, transforming the balloons into useful products and reduction of total costs. Now, business-wise, Clairion offers a flexible model that enables dealing with different scenarios. We often offer engineering design, liquid cells and services, and cells of systems or subsystems. But in such conservative market and complex multiplayer ecosystem, we work closely with engineering companies and air pollution control solution providers, specializing in our target industries as our strategic partners, channels to market, and even as customers themselves. And what's the true engine powering Clairion? It's the synergy between highly experienced management with deep knowledge in both business and science, together with a professional and devoted team of chemists and engineers joined by supportive investors and early stage partners. Now, these days, we're in process of raising additional funds to continue leveraging our successful pilots and commercial activities for further environmental impact for a cleaner and better world. It's a perfect time to join us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Haggai. We're moving instead now back to Europe, and we're going to have quite of a special startup introducing us today. I would like to welcome Chris. He has had a very innovative, very cutting edge technology for his startup, has been developing it to quite some time, and I'm pretty sure he's going to surprise you all. Krista, stage is yours.
Yeah, hi, I'm super excited to be here and talk to the entire Plug and Play family. Italy is just beautiful this time of year. I want to talk to you today about my startup journey. Now, some of you might know that I'm the pitch doctor. I help startups and corporate entrepreneurs pitch better, but that's not why I'm here today. Today I'm here because I'm also a founder and chief equine officer. Now, you might also know from the startup news that I'm the biggest fuck up in startup history. So today I want to talk about failure, but I also want to talk about redemption. And most importantly, I want to talk about ponies. I will inspire you a lot, okay? This is originally a TED Talk, and you will see what I mean. But before I can tell you anything, you have to promise me something. You have to give me a pinky promise NDA. Can you do that right now? Can you do that? Okay. You have to promise me not to tell anyone about all of these secrets. Let's start with chapter 1. I grew up a very normal child. I had jobs that I thought about doing later in life, but then one day I got hooked on ponies, and ponies have stuck with me ever since. Fast forward to university, where I did normal university things, I realized that sharing was a really interesting concept. And back then, sharing also became a business, because this was the time when people started putting their apartments and their cars on platforms like Airbnb and Breakfast and Uber Cab and make some money that way. So I thought, what is another major asset that people have that they might want to put on a platform like that? And of course I realized ponies. So the problem I wanted to solve with my platform was you either have a pony or you don't. If you don't have a pony, the problem is very obvious. You don't have a pony. But even if you have a pony, you still have a problem, because you only use your pony on average 12.8 minutes per day, but you have to feed it for the whole 24 hours. I also Googled it and I realized that a lot of people want ponies. And then I looked at some stats as well, and I realized that people around the world love ponies. So my idea was born. Chapter 2, it went up a lot. So what I set out to do is I said, why don't I do Uber Cab for ponies? I came up with a great name, ridemypony.com, and we did P2P location-based pony rentals, or as we called it in our claim, collaboratively consuming ponies together. Now, in the beginning, it wasn't glamorous. This is our first office back when I had a little bit more hair. Things were tough, okay? I tried to get a co-founder, but everybody who answered to my tweet wasn't ideal. They didn't have the right pony background, so I stuck it out by myself, hired a small team, definitely lived the ramen lifestyle. I even had to come up with an idea to finance our first version of the product. So I actually started selling this cereal, and it went well enough so that I could build the first app. So this is what we built. Very simple app. You could see the available ponies around you. You could click on them. You could get more info. There was some gamification, and you could check out immediately and start riding the pony. So we did our hidden beta in Berlin, and it went really well. In fact, press loved it, okay? TechCrunch started writing about us with the next great thing. We got invited to major conferences to pitch there, and TechCrunch wrote about us again. We started doing this amazing marketing campaign with a really creative ad agency that went really well for us. Obviously also a product like that went very, very viral. Here's just a couple of the tweets. Famous founders were tweeting about it, famous investors. In fact, Mark Andreessen was really into it. He said he was going to tie his improved offer to a bigger brick and throw it into our window. So people really fell in love with the product, and also investors really liked it. And I was living the lifestyle. I mean, it was pretty epic. And then the show came out, Silicon Meadow. You've probably seen it, HBO show. I mean, why is the startup called Pied Pony? Obviously, because it's based on my story. You can even look at the main character. I mean, he looks a little bit like me. I don't think they did a great job because he doesn't look that much like me, but still, I mean, there was stuff happening that showed me that we were going in the right direction. Then obviously this happened, the big show, Comedians in Cars, got renamed Comedians on Ponies Getting Coffee. Another big success for us because we paid them to do that. Then the Simpsons episode, you probably remember that one. That was all about us and ponies as the future of transportation. So basically everything was going great, and I was thinking IPO, I was thinking what boat to buy, I was thinking maybe buy a basketball team of this guy, rename it or something like that. I was looking at real estate. So it was all going great. I was on top of the world, literally. But that is where you know what happens next, chapter 3, the crash. So what burst our bubble? Well, first of all, the big problem was our S1. We tried to IPO, we put out our S1, and people actually read it. And that was the problem. So they realized that we pretended to be a tech company, but we couldn't really store our ponies in the cloud. So that was the first big thing that became a problem. Then there was a second thing, and that was I mean, you've heard of this, Pony Festival. Obviously. So we did this amazing festival, Caribbean island, a lot of ponies. It was super amazing, the idea. I found this, the rapper that had the perfect pony connection, Genuine, and we worked on it together. It was pretty cool, but then it didn't work out, okay? It got pretty dark there for a moment. You've probably seen the meme. And then there was the documentary about it and the other documentary about how we failed. So that was the second thing. But there was a third thing, and that was sort of the final thing, and that was TechCrunch. Okay, TechCrunch turned on us when one guy talked to a bunch of our users and apparently realized that our model wasn't really going to work. He turned it into the famous book, Bad Pony. You've probably all read it. And what he found out basically is he talked to our customers. Because we were a P2P model, we had to have the supply. And he talked to the suppliers of the ponies. And apparently what they told him is they weren't really into sharing their ponies. And that's something that caught us by surprise a little bit. Yeah, there's a bunch of, I mean, come on. So that was a real reality check for us. And I went back and I looked at it and I said, okay, I have proof. I know that people want ponies, right? That's a thing. I also went back and looked at, apparently it's no problem when you put your apartment on Airbnb and you get it back like this. That's not a problem. And apparently also getting into this guy's car at 3 a.m. at night to drive you home, apparently also not a problem. But sharing ponies, apparently a big problem. So that's when we realized, I mean, it failed. It didn't work. P2P location-based pony rentals didn't work. So what did we try to do? We tried to pivot. Okay, first step, pivot. We did emotional support ponies for a little bit. We got some press about it, but it wasn't enough. So next step was the fire sale, or the attempted fire sale. So we tried to sell to eHay. We also talked to Lyft. We even offered them to dye our pony's hair pink, but they weren't interested. Then we looked at aftermarket potential. We tested a brand for a little bit that we called Beyond Pony. And I think the product was pretty good, but it wasn't enough to sustain the company. So next chapter, rock bottom. I was kicked out of my own company, and all I got was $1 billion severance package, which was really disappointing. And I was really down for a little bit there, but then I took an Uber, and my Uber driver was actually really interesting, really smart guy. And he said, dude, why don't you become an investor? So I went to the next Patagonia shop and I became an investor. And I started investing in startups. And some of those were really great investments. I'm still an investor in those companies. So I'm super excited about the future. So for example, I invested in Slacker. You might have heard of that. Blanstagram, really cool one. And then one that I'm really proud of because I'm a big contrarian. So I invested in Flea Sleeves. And I mean, you know these startups. I think they're all going to be billion-dollar companies. And I mean, the investor lifestyle was pretty cool because I was flying around again, but I realized there was a big void. And that void was ponies. Because I'm a pony guy at heart. This kid was still in me, and there were no ponies in the businesses I was investing in. So I realized I had to do something else. And that's when, luckily, an epiphany struck me. Because this was the time when all the scooters popped up, okay? All these companies started, and I realized, how about not sharing? Maybe the sharing was the problem. Maybe we should not be sharing ponies. So this is chapter 7, yet another $1 billion idea, or as I like to call it, the best pitch ever of all time. So I'm going to pitch you my new company that I'm doing right now, and I think you'll be super excited about it. So what is the newly defined problem that we're trying to solve? Well, it's obvious. Scooters suck. Scooters are uncomfortable. Riding them is really dangerous, and they're freaking ugly. But a ton of these companies are really successful. They're raising a lot of money. Investors love them. And I mean, look at them. Bird, they don't even rent out birds. What is this? So we have a much better solution than electric scooters. And our solution is obviously ponies. So we call our company Pony. And our new claim is not collaboratively consuming ponies together anymore because that's not working. It's just consuming ponies. Ponies are great because they're super smooth, they're super safe, and they're super cute. So much better than electric scooters. So what does the product look like? Well, it's rental ponies for everyone, everywhere. They're all over the city, just like the scooters. You have an app, very uniquely designed app we have, and you go in there and you find a pony and you ride it. It's just not P2P. It means we own the ponies. And we are really excited about this. We think this can work in big cities for sure. It will definitely work in the suburbs as well. It will work for old people, young people, small people, big people. We see this working everywhere. We even see it working in Italy. And we have already built a really exciting beta version of our product. So we have a product that's very flexible. It has different modes, for example. So you have a walk mode, a trot mode, a gallop mode, and something that we're really proud of because no other mobility company has thought of that idea. We also have what we call ludicrous mode. We have another mode that every startup needs right now, and that is obviously dark mode. Now you might ask, how are you going to do this logistically? Recharging. That's the big problem, right? Infrastructure. But we have that solved because we have the Super Carrot network and it will solve the charging problem in no time. Our product is adaptable to different needs. So we have different versions of it. The easiest version is Pony X. Then there's a little bit more sort of upmarket version that's called Pony Black. Then if you want to spend a little bit more for a little bit more luxury, we have Pony Black SUV. And we obviously also have Pony Pool. Now, we believe this is the time to do it because the mega trend of ponies has gotten even bigger since my last failed pony startup, ridemypony.com. So, I mean, last year on Netflix, the biggest show was about ponies. The biggest song on the internet, Wet As Ponies. The biggest website on the internet is about ponies. So we think now is the time to do it. And also we have one ace up our sleeve, and that's our values. Because we think that these scooter companies, they don't treat their employees well. And we want to be different. Okay, so we have one main KPI that we've defined for us, and that is NPS. And you of course know that stands for Net Pony Satisfaction. So we keep our ponies really comfortable. We have a pony spa. We take their mental health very seriously. And so they don't get bored, we actually give them 20% time, which means that 1 day a week they can work on other projects. We also give them the occasional muffin made by my co-founder. We have a great company motto, and that's move at a moderate pace and nibble things, and it works. Our employees live it every day. We have a very clear business model. You pay to unlock, and then you pay per mile. But we also have other ideas like sponsored saddles. So for example, Starbucks could sponsor a saddle, you ride the pony, you go like, I need a coffee. There's also brands where we just feel the natural fit between us and them that could totally become sponsors as well. And then we have the ability to sort of geographically adapt our product a little bit so that we can get sponsors that have like a specific target audience in mind as well. Right now we're fundraising, so if there's any investors here in the room, I would like to share some numbers, just some conservative revenue estimates, because you love those. This is it, okay? This is what we're estimating, which gives you the perfect hockey stick that every investor wants to see. And really importantly, these are conservative estimates, okay? Yeah, I mean, we have a great team, experienced people, very smart, good-looking, and humble people. And we also have a great advisory board, and we're really proud of our advisory board because it's very diverse. A lot of advisory boards, it's all the same types of people. Not in our case, very, very diverse group of people. We already have a ton of leads to investors. I mean, we saw this the other day in Silicon Valley. We met this guy at a party. So I think we already have really, really good leads on investors. But if you want to become an investor, absolutely, let me know. We're raising 50 million right now, but only the best need to apply, okay? We only take in the best investors. So if you're a bad investor, like we don't want your money. We want the smartest of the smart money. But if you have that, then contact me on LinkedIn. Let me know that you want to invest, or just send cash in a suitcase, okay? Because this is a unique opportunity because you can be part of the journey of the world's first ponycorn ever. And then once I raise that money, I can finally get a new office for the company. And yeah, I will be known not as the biggest fuck up in the startup history anymore, but the biggest comeback story in startup history. That's my goal. And I hope I inspired you a little bit today that failure in the beginning doesn't mean that you'll fail forever. I'm on my way to become a billionaire, founder of $1 billion company for sure. And in that journey, if any investors in the room or anybody else who wants to join our cause, come ride with us to IPO country. That's last year's slide. We call it spec country now. So thank you very much, and get in touch if you're interested in Pony.
I hope you all had a good laugh, and it's now time to take a break. It's gonna be 10 minutes break, and please come back and we're gonna introduce you to more startups. Thank you so much. See you shortly.
And we're back. Welcome back, everyone. I hope you had a nice break and that you're now back at your screens. For those who do not know me, my name is Tommaso, and I'm part of the ventures team here at Plug and Play in Italy. And it is my distinct pleasure today to welcome on stage the speaker for today's keynote address. Today's speaker is Mark Workman, who is director at Foresight Transitions, and he is a co-founder at the Carbon Removal Center. So let's all give it up for Mark Workman. Mark, please take the stage.
Thank you very much, Tommaso. I'd also like to extend my thanks to Arianna and Luca and all the organisers of the Plug and Play Summer Expo for giving me the opportunity to present. What I'm going to talk about is realising net zero and considering some of the implications and what some of the things that probably need to be brought to bear in terms of possible innovation constructs, because net zero is quite some undertaking. we need to essentially develop simultaneous innovation for technologies, markets, regulation and policy. And we also need to develop new relationships between academics, entrepreneurs, regulators, policymakers and investors. And what Plug and Play are doing fits very much along this, but there is a need for broader innovation requirements within the ecology that Plug and Play works in order to realize net zero. And that's what I'm going to cover in this presentation. Ariana asked that I give a quick background to myself. So my name is Mark Workman. I'm a specialist in strategic foresight. I use mixed methods to identify risks and opportunities in different possible futures. I'm a coastal engineer and an environmental economist to PhD and master's level. I'm ex-British military, having served in light role units, mainly in the conflicts, expeditionary conflicts post 9/11. I left after Iraq and then assisted a team running a medical and security consultancy out in Africa and Asia. And in terms of the last sort of 10 to 15 years, I've been sat at the nexus between policymakers, corporates and academia, looking to address innovation needs for deep decarbonisation and making the global economy climate compatible for the future, basically. I'm also a visiting researcher at Imperial College London. Before I go to the key tenets of my argument in this presentation, I just wanted to highlight that as an innovator, particularly one that's seeking to develop climate relevant innovation, it's a really exciting time to work within the space. The Paris Agreement in 2015 has really started to wake up the investor community. And there was some early work done by Jason Chanel on energy Darwinism, which highlighted the fact that if the Paris Agreement requirements are hit, there stands to be $100 trillion of stranded fossil fuel assets. Now that's just the energy sector. And from that, there are additional momentum being developed by asset holders and investors. I mean, BlackRock effectively has stated that climate risk now is investment risk, and they are in the process of pivoting their entire portfolio to be climate compatible. And if you're not climate compatible, the fact is it's just bad business. You're going to have higher cost of capital. You're going to have risks of asset stranding. You're going to have erosion of market capital and therefore be subject at risk of takeover. And you are more than increasingly likely to be exposed to carbon pricing of some form, whether it be a tax or otherwise. And this can be no better exemplified by what happened at the end of May, when Engine Number One, a small hedge fund in America, effectively usurped 2 Exxon board members and replaced them with those that understand the net zero agenda and the need to address climate change. And this was justified if you look at the top right graph here. The fact that Exxon hasn't been covering the its cost of capital in the last 15 years. Their return on capital has been below the weighted average cost of capital. And so therefore, not addressing net zero is just plain bad business. And not only is it bad business not addressing it, but actually addressing it is good business. And that's demonstrated in the slide on the image on the bottom right, where investments in climate compatible net zero technologies actually yields a much better return than one would get otherwise. Not only is the investor community waking up to the challenge to need to address net zero and climate change, but the legal profession is too. There are over 19,000 pieces of climate legislation. Over 1,000 of those, 2/3, were enacted over the last 10 years. The dichotomy between financial success and environmental profiling, echoing Fink's statement that climate risk is investor risk, is now collapsing according to Lord Sales. The number of legal cases brought against corporates and companies around climate change now stand at over 110 and on the increase. And this cannot be better exemplified by what happened again at the end of May, where a Dutch court effectively sided with campaigners and stated that Shell was in part responsible for climate change and that they need to up their game regarding cutting emissions. And Rather excitedly, albeit somewhat worrying at the same time, in terms of being exciting for innovators, we need to develop an entirely new sector. We need carbon removal, and this is a great opportunity, as much as the non-realization of this opportunity is also deeply worrying. As echoed by John Kerry, we need carbon removal, and we probably need it at quite a substantive scale. So there's no greater time to start mixing it up in the net zero innovation space. But the fact is, the net zero transition, or transitions more broadly, are really very complicated. Here I draw your attention to the right of this slide, which presents Giels's socio-technical transitions framework, which highlights the fact that you need top level, i.e. landscape, national and supranational initiatives. You also therefore concurrently need small networks of actors at the niche level, and all these interact at the socio-technical regime in the middle, where markets, industry, policy and technology interact in order to result in tipping points within the system to realize the new net zero system from the old fossil fuel intensive system. Now, it's all very good when you do this at an emergent transition, i.e. the market just emerges and evolves. But when you're actually looking to have a more deterministic type transition, i.e. one that's climate compatible and therefore cannot afford fossil fuels, you need the role of governments, and governments need to really step up. Some work produced by the International Energy Agency highlights that there's a need for $5 trillion of investment required. At the moment, it only stands at $2 trillion. Not only do you need the amount of investment, but there can afford to be no more fossil fuel investment projects, no more internal combustion engines in cars in the next 14 years. And in the next 19 years, the global electricity sector needs to be net zero. Now, governments have demonstrated that they can step up, and they will step up. They did it for COVID-19, where they boosted spend on epidemiology. They removed the barriers to innovation in order to allow the vaccine program to be catalyzed, and they improved connectivity between the public and private sector. If it can be done for COVID-19, it can surely be done for net zero. The role of government is really, really important because we cannot afford the net zero transition to be like past transitions. This slide, showing some empirical work by Václav Smel, demonstrates that in the US it took coal 103 years to account for 5% of total energy consumed, and then another 26% to reach 25%. That's 129 years, and we've got 29 years to hit net zero across all generation technologies, not just coal. So government, we need to step up. We cannot afford the old system of innovation. And it can be argued that we're already starting to see weak signs of seriously disruptive technologies being brought to the fore. Governments have stepped up in the past. Their contribution to the reduction in solar costs, as demonstrated in the slide on the top, on the image on the top right, and solar costs have perpetually outstripped market forecasts as to its costs relative to other technologies. That needs to be replicated across a number of other energy generation technologies. But what's also rather heartening, and I'm quoting some work here done by the Rethink X team, that demonstrates that autonomous electric vehicles may result in the light-duty vehicle fleet being reduced by 90% in the next 10 to 20 years in the form of transport as a service. The agricultural sector, many specialists believe that this is going to be an incredibly hard sector to decarbonise, and yet there are weak signs as food as a software potentially negating the need to raise cattle, and therefore we will have 60% of coarse-grained feed no longer being needed to be fed to produce meat, which will then in turn free up land. The role of cement as a massive contributor might be reversed in terms of Carbon Cure having just been awarded the X Prize for providing a cement that actually absorbs CO2 from the atmosphere. So rather than contributing 5 gigatons a year, there's a possibility that the cement sector might become a sink. And then the role of artificial intelligence in driving a lot of these and digitalization also cannot be understated. A lot needs to get done in the next 29 years to realize net zero. Here are just a small list of items. From the bottom up, we need to improve our decision-making constructs around the way we address net zero. We are looking for disruptive change, and therefore we need to work out that we can't anticipate everything, and we need to bring to fore new decision support systems, which I'll go to in the later part of the talk. We need to plan for a just transition. Everybody needs to be brought along, and at the moment we don't have a vision for net zero. We need to start talking about it. In terms of doing it right, we need to make sure that when we are genuinely mitigating, we are negating the production of CO2. And when we state that we are taking CO2 from the atmosphere, from carbon removal technologies, that we genuinely are. We need to level the playing field. At the moment, the incumbent systems have too much of an advantage as a function of lock-in, and we need to break that. We also need to create greater capacity of understanding what net zero is, alluding to, this is closely linked to the just transition, and they need to still start talking about it. And we also need to seriously address the investment gap. Only 4% of total global spend on R&D goes to climate compatible development, and that needs to be improved substantially. Now, as alluded to in terms of the slide showing Valaclav Smells empirical work on transitions, we cannot afford to have the old traditional innovation model whereby technology push was the way that things were done. You have the technology, it feeds into a broader suite of technologies that creates a system that then allows a service to be provided, whether it be an infrastructure service or an energy service, that then fits into a business model, that then fits to within a broader value chain, that then policy and regulation is adapted in order to accommodate that innovation. And so what you have is these three components as shown by the arrows underneath the flowchart on top. You have technology innovation to the left, you have commercial innovation in the middle, and then you have the politics and the policy and the regulation allowing that innovation around technology and commerce to be incorporated within the system. This is too slow. So what do we need in order to address this? The teams that I work with state that there are probably three things that need to be brought to bear in order to catalyse innovation. One, we need whole system innovation, and I'll go into this slide in a second. Two, we need a new organising construct as to the way that innovation is brought into society more broadly. And then the third is that we need a culture change around the way that different actors interact in order to allow the de-risking of disruptive innovation. So in terms of addressing the whole system piece, we need to start developing innovations and experimentation, which is exactly what plug and play does. We need to start doing this at Giel's regime level, whereby we have experimentation that takes place around business models and services. Why do we need this? We need this in order to provide guidance to the niche solutions that are coming up from the bottom. Without that guidance, you just simply have unstructured innovation that tends to get lost within the broader space, and there's no direction to that. And then why do you also need these experiments to take place at the regime level? Because then it provides this petri dish of evidence to allow policymakers, regulators, and new business model specialists to see how these technologies may be brought within the broader landscape level to be integrated and therefore result in tipping points for net zero. In terms of organising constructs, we definitely need to improve on our present governance systems. And here I've put forward some work that Nesta have been doing around anticipatory regulation and anticipatory governance. To be fair, the World Bank has also been looking at this in terms of some of their work. I don't have time to go into the detail, and there are links within this deck that will allow participants to see, to investigate further. But essentially, we need constructs that are inclusive and collaborative, bring societal actors into the decision-making process. We need to provide visions and allow future-facing aspects of what may be coming along and the trade-offs that need to be considered. We also need to be proactive. We need to integrate the way that we work together with investors, innovators, policymakers, and I'll allude to that in my next slide. And in terms of experimentation, this is the key theme that runs through this. We need to provide the evidence as to what may or may not work in order to realise net zero, and we need to start doing it quickly. And so what is this about the need for a new cultural adjustment? Now, this is very much playing to what Plug and Play does. It's looking to develop new relationships between innovators and corporates. And what I would argue is that cultural adjustment actually needs to go one step further. We need to incorporate more of a relationship with regulators, policymakers and investors and innovators in order to what Bakshi states as developing a more learning focused network breaking information discovery role for policy, focus on opportunities for and constraints to entrepreneurial action. So that in the same way that the first slide I showed regarding the guidance of policy at experimental level also therefore unlocks uncertainty for entrepreneurs and innovators. And what's really exciting and what clearly Plug and Play have been developing here, or on the cusp of pushing over to a tipping point, is the fact it's already happening. In the UK, in Paris, we have climate assemblies as well, bringing in societal actors to better understand the trade-offs and what society wants from net zero. There are a host of incubators and accelerators globally, not enough climate technology incubators and accelerators, but the fact is they're happening. And a great example is what Anglian Water have set up, which is their Living Lab. It's a 19,000 person living lab in Newmarket, whereby they do all their innovation, whether it be social, commercial or technological. It is happening. It needs to happen more quickly, and we need more experimental platforms. And in terms of developing more experimental platforms, they also need to be coordinated at a global level in order to know what's being done and duplicated. And not only do they need to be done at a global level, but they need to be integrated across ontologies and specializations. And what I've got here is an example of something called MetaSub, which essentially integrates genomics, meta design and urban biome disciplines in order to create smarter cities. I don't really have time to go into it. There's a link in order to highlight the importance of the global and integrative nature as to the way that innovation needs to be done going forward. Right, thank you very much for listening. It was a speedy canter through the net zero innovation needs as per the teams that I work with. I hope some of it was of use. I cannot emphasize the scale of the challenge and yet what an exciting time it is to be working in this space. And all the participants of the Sustainability Expo, I wish you all the very best of luck. We have a monumental challenge, but one thing that's proven time and time again with humankind is that when the challenge is great, people invariably step up. And I salute you for stepping up and starting your journey in this space. May I wish you all the very best. And if you want to get hold of me, these are my details. Thanks very much indeed.
Thank you very much, Mark, for the great keynote speech. And now we'll move on to the next keynote speaker, who is Massimo Paris. Massimo oversees corporate quality assurance and sustainability at Buzzi Unicem, and today he will be talking about how to reduce CO2 emissions in the concrete industry. So with that, I'll pass the mic to you, Massimo.
Hi, everyone. My name is Massimo Paris. I'm responsible for quality assurance and sustainability at Buzzi Unicem Group. Today, I would like to present you a quick overview on how R&D activities can contribute to address the strategies of Buzzi Unicem related to climate change. Here, I summarize the topics I would touch today. First, reducing the risk of climate change for a cement producer means reducing CO2 emissions. This is the challenge in the next years to come. Second, CO2 emission of Buzzi Unicem. Third, the main levers to decarbonize our processes, products, and the possible role R&D can play with. Concrete is the second largest material utilized worldwide after water, and it is recognized as an essential material to foster mankind's well-being. Anyway, its main constituent, cement, is the second largest emitter of CO2. The cement production in 2018 reached 4.1 gigaton, with an estimated CO2 emission of 2.2 gigaton, which corresponds to roughly 7% of the overall CO2 emissions. With the Paris Agreement signed in 2015, many countries decided to commit to significantly reducing their CO2 emissions. European Union is really active in that sense. In 2018, the reduction targets shared just after the Paris Agreement have been revised, making them more ambitious. Now the goal is to become carbon neutral by 2050. July this year, the so-called Fit for 55 package is expected to be approved by the European Union. It consists in many legislative acts, like carbon border adjustment mechanism, the review of the European the emission trading scheme, some directives on energy efficiency, renewable, and energy taxation, which need to be carefully assessed and synchronized. If not, the risk is to jeopardize our competitiveness. It is worth mentioning how the CO2 allowances price under the emission trading scheme has recently skyrocketed, achieving €51 per ton. Now, in this slide, you can see our CO2 emissions reported on the Sustainability Report 2020 last year, and their origin. Probably you all are familiar with the scope 1, 2, and 3 notation. CO2 scope 1, also called direct emissions, are definitely the greatest, reaching almost 20 million tons. They are originated from two sources: limestone decarbonation, which accounts by roughly 63%, and the fuels burning, accounting for the remaining 37%. Scope 2 are indirect emissions associated to the production of the electricity we use, and they account for 1.6 million tons. Scope 3 are those related to the transport of raw material and products. We have just an estimation for them around 3.5 million tons. Scope 2 and 3 emissions are both supposed to decline in the near future, thanks to the expected increasing utilization, respectively, of renewables and electrical engines. Here, I've listed the main levers for cement sector to decarbonize. In the next slides, I will describe them one by one, also mentioning the possible contribution from R&D activities. So let's start with the clinker factor. Clinker is the main component of cement, and to its production, the most of the CO2 emissions are associated with. So less clinker we use, less CO2 we emit. Cements may have different clinker contents, originating different cement types, depending on the materials which replace it. Some of them are well known and well tried, like pozzolans or fly ashes, plus furnace leads and burnt limestone. Easy solution, therefore, is pushing the use of low clinker cements, but this is not so easy to realize. We have two problems. Not all those materials are available nearby the cement plant, and the cement characteristics are not always fully accepted by the customer. So possible tasks for research and development are, first, try to find new affordable and suitable materials to replace for clinker replacing, like, for instance, calcined clay, recently published in many articles in the literature. And second, to improve the performance of low clinker cements to make them easier accepted by the market. Alternative fuels. As I already mentioned, around 40% of the CO2 emission come from combustion. The fuels utilized the most are fossil fuels. One solution is to replace them using the so-called alternative fuels. For instance, those derived from urban wastes, used tires, exhaust solvents, etc. Such materials normally contain biomass, which is carbon neutral. So they allow a significant reduction of CO2 emissions. Anyway, although in some plants they are already largely used, there are some problems related to their great heterogeneity. So the task in this sense, the task for R&D could be easy and fast characterization techniques, for instance, moisture content, chemical composition, heat value, and so on. And then also combustion optimization. It depends on the point in the process where the alternative fuels are fed, and also some technique how to convey, how to dose this kind of materials. Another possible solution, thinking out of the box, is to completely replace fuels, for instance, by kiln electrification. Energy optimization. Wasting energy means more CO2 emissions. So efforts are necessary to adequately exploit any chance. Promising new solutions are those based on the implementation of organic ranking cycle equipment to generate electricity. And such electricity could then be used to produce oxygen, pure oxygen and hydrogen from the electrolysis of water. Injections of oxygen and hydrogen to kill burners may significantly improve the efficiency of combustions and then reducing the need for fuels. New cements. Replacing 4.1 gigaton year of a product patented in 1824, so in 2 years there will be 200 years of the invention of cement, is not an easy task. Anyway, R&D has been studying new binders for many years. Some of them have a lower carbon footprint due to a chemical formulation which requires less energy, like geopolymers, belytic cement, sulfoaluminate cements. Up to now, carbon capture seems to be absolutely necessary for our industry to achieve the carbon neutrality by 2050. According to several roadmaps, 30 to 50% of CO2 will be abated with this technology. Although known since years, there is room enough for carbon capture technologies to be further developed and optimized. In addition, we should not forget that the carbon capture alone is not sufficient. transport and storage are both necessary to close the loop. And also in those fields, R&D could give an important contribution. In the last slide, I grouped the two last levers I would mention: low carbon concrete and low carbon structures. Here, the task is to optimize the materials utilization depending on the application and external conditions. In few words, use less cement in concrete and less concrete in building structures. Task for R&D could be the development of new software based maybe on artificial intelligence engine, which should allow technologists, engineers to deal with the huge number of variables, which today make impossible to realize such an optimization. This is my last slide for today. Time was really tight to give you more details. In any case, I'm available if anyone would like to deepen one or more of the topics I mentioned. And thanks for listening, and goodbye.
All right, thank you very much, Massimo, for the great keynote address. And now we'll move back to the startup pitches. Before we do that though, let me remind you that the most voted startup will win the Italy Summer Summit Sustainability Award. So please do make sure to vote your favorite startup. And now let me introduce you to Carbix, which is actually the first startup from the energy and climate area. And I would like to introduce you to Joanne, who will be presenting Carbix. Joanne is from the US.
Hi, I'm Quincy Sammy, and our company Carbix is capturing CO2 and turning it into stone. Not just any stone, specifically carbonates, the mineral grit that will become the bulk of future material feedstock for cement and concrete products. And our entire process is carbon negative. The challenge begins in capturing emissions from cement and concrete plant manufacturing, which is responsible for nearly 8% of greenhouse gases. We're able to do that with a few pilots that we have coming up. Our first pilot with Everest Energy calls for the use of carbon negative and cement concrete for use in Everest oil platform well casings, and also for Everest new business unit to capture methane from leaking old and abandoned wells and using the carbon negative concrete to seal them. We're also looking forward to being pre-listed for sales on Pure.earth, the world's first B2B carbon exchange marketplace. At this site, our carbon credits that we generate can be sold to emitters for prices upwards of $80 or more per metric ton. We've been in continuous dialogue also with multinational and cement and concrete ready-mix producers like Bootsy Unisem through our Plug and Play affiliate, as well as BE Energy Core in Canada with Innova Core and also Saint-Gobain. One of the reasons that cement and other concrete users are talking to us is because of our ability to uptake CO2 relative to our closest competitor. We can uptake 53% of CO2 during the early hydration process, and over time, or the LCA, our net CO2 footprint is still high at 9 times more than our competitor, as our process holds CO2 permanently up to about 42%. This is the X1 reactor. And now in nature, CO2 will turn to stone naturally when it's injected underground. Calcite, in certain projects when CO2 is piped underground in the presence of basalts, it can turn to stone faster, perhaps in 2 to 3 years. But in the Carbix X1 reactor, we cut this down to a few minutes and a few hours. We do this with a combination of high and low speed mixing, variable mixing, UVC light energy, as well as the use of heat and pressure. Currently, the X1 reactor is operational, and we are producing samples for compression and strength testing. The data I'm showing you isn't from the X1, but from a smaller benchtop type reactor we created about a year ago. The results showed an uptake of CO2 over a 3-week period of 30%, but in the form of polymorphs. And for a batch of about 6 hours, the uptake rate was 3 to 5%. In the X1, we expect to increase our rates to nearly 53% and 80% respectively. The market opportunity is a global construction and materials industry valued at nearly $1 trillion. Our focus segment is the cement and concrete space valued at nearly $330 billion. Concrete is the second most used product in the world. The only thing we consume more of is water. We make 2 primary products, magnesium and calcium carbonates, and we can also produce oxides for OPC, the preferred blend for architects and engineers for 95% of the world's construction applications. We'd also like to offer individual consumers the opportunity to offset their own footprint through purchasing our carbon credits online through our own website. I think this opportunity allows individuals more control over their carbon footprint and engages consumers. Profitability in year 1 is potentially strong, with the CO2 costs coming nearly to zero from point source emissions. And at a plant scale in this model, we can capture nearly 330,000 metric tons of CO2. And here's a team that can enable success of pilot and commercial operations. Myself, I have over 10 years in clean tech design engineering, and I lead our efforts on all fronts of business development, fundraising, and IP. Dr. Deej is a PhD in aerodynamics and wind energy and works with us in developing solvers so that we can study reaction kinetics. And Sami Datwani is our science advisor and a PhD in chemical engineering. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Johan, for the great pitch. And now let's move on to the next company to present, which is Blue Planet. Blue Planet is an American company, so they'll be presenting from the US.
Hi, my name's Ken Hines. I'm the VP of Business Development for Blue Planet. As we all know, global emissions for CO2 have been reaching critical points and continuing to rise. We're all looking for solutions for not only capturing, but more importantly, permanently sequestering CO2 that's been captured. And there's increasing pressure being put on that through all sorts of government incentives and programs. But I think one of the key elements for successful disbursement of this technology is that it is a profitable means to capture and sequester CO2 and not 100% reliant on government subsidies. The current capture technology, especially those that require the purification of that CO2 and then subsequently the liquefaction and transportation, are fairly expensive, not only from a cost standpoint, but also from a parasitic load standpoint. There's also a trend for a growing emphasis on utilization of construction wastes and other industrial waste materials. And the market for aggregates in general, both construction and use in concrete as well as other uses, there's a huge global demand of 54 billion to 56 billion metric tons and growing each year. Blue Planet's solution basically touches on all these pain points and creates an opportunity for not only capturing CO2 and permanently sequestering an aggregate, but addressing a large global market and requirement for those aggregates. This is a proprietary technology, and essentially we are capturing the CO2 into an aqueous ammonia solution. So we're creating carbonates and bicarbonates. When those carbonates and bicarbonates see a source of aqueous metals, they mineralize out as a metal carbonate, most of the time as calcium carbonate. What we are then doing is we're taking that and forming aggregates, both coarse and fine, so in other words, sand and gravel, without having to purify that CO2 at any step and without using additional pressure and temperature. Our model is to license our technology. So on the right, you see third-party owned project companies. We will license the technology, provide development services. Our first initial plant is in Pittsburgh, California. The It's on the San Francisco Bay. There we're using natural gas from a calpine power plant. So it's a very dilute source of CO2. Again, we are not purifying that source. We're using waste concrete as our source for metals. And together we're forming then CO2 sequestered lightweight aggregates, in other words, calcium carbonate based aggregates. Those can be pure calcium carbonate or used as a coating. We're also then having upcycled that old demolished concrete after we've removed the calcium oxides from it, can be sold as a upcycled, recycled concrete aggregate. So again, we're capturing without purification. We're permanently sequestering this CO2 into an aggregate product that's being sold into a large existing market. We are a licensing model, so we're entertaining licensees around the world to own and operate these plants. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you very much. And now let's give it up for the next company, which is Carbon Upcycling. Carbon Upcycling will be presented by Natalie, dialing from Canada.
Carbon upcycling technology uses the waste of today to build a better tomorrow. The context that really drives the change for us every day is seeing that there's an increased urbanization happening over the next 20 years, seeing more than 2.5 billion people move into urban areas. And with more people in urban areas, there's going to be a demand for concrete. Now, concrete's most carbon intensive component is cement, contributing 8% of our global emissions annually. So rising emissions is driving climate changes with rising temperatures and rising sea levels, causing concrete to degrade faster than normal. So with urbanization increasing, that's creating a larger demand for cement, increasing our impacts on climate change, further degrading concrete. This is a negative feedback loop that we have developed a technology to help solve. Our technology is a single-step, low-energy treatment technology that enhances additives with waste CO2. We put two feedstocks into our reactor, dioxide and an absorbent feedstock. During the batch reactor process, the reactor spins, exfoliating the material, allowing the CO2 to chemically absorb itself onto the structure of the feedstock. The end product is an enhanced additive that can be plugged into different supply chains. Our most commercially ready additive is fly ash, which is used in concrete that is transported directly to the batching facility to be used in concrete every day. The concrete that we help create has a lower cement and a lower carbon footprint than traditional concrete. We're also seeing strength improvements of over 30%, more durable concrete, and concrete that's cost neutral when using our additive. Over the last 7 years, we've had great support from corporations, associations, and universities, helping us develop our technology and our business strategy to commercially enter the market in the most feasible way. We've also been able to look at using different additives in our process so that we can impact more than just the concrete supply chain. We can impact plastics and the consumer product supply chains as well. For the plastics additives, we create a nucleating agent from talc and graphite. We then create plastic master batches that are prepared for injection molders and different plastic manufacturers to create consumer goods like plastic pails, mascara bottles, eyeshadow cases, and any plastic product that you could imagine. This last year, Carbon Upcycling Technologies has launched in Air, which is our consumer-facing brand. Technologies is really focused on those big industry players like Lafarge and Cemex in the construction space. But we wanted to launch Expedition Air as our consumer-facing brand that allowed customers to really interact with CO2 and all the products that they have in their lives. We have used an artist in residence program over the last 2 years, where we've had an artist in Colombia develop a novel CO2 black paint that he uses to create these negative landscapes that can be viewed in a positive light to see the impacts of climate change. Our processing facility is located in Western Canada, where we have a 20-ton batch reactor, and we are currently scoping out larger scale demonstration facilities that have 100-ton plus batch capacity. So we are hoping that companies are rethinking material choices across all levels of manufacturing supply chains so that they can build with better materials that have lower carbon footprints so that we can help them launch the carbon age, where we deploy greener, stronger, and more durable materials made from carbon dioxide. My name is Natalie Giglio, and you can reach me at natalie@carbonupcycling.com, and thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Natalie. And now let's call on stage the next company to present, which is Carbonate Systems. Carbonate Systems will be presented by James. So let's welcome on stage James, dialing from the UK.
Good morning or good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm James Evangeli from Carbonate Systems, and we have a solution which takes two different waste streams, industrial thermal residues and waste carbon dioxide, and combines the two together to manufacture products. So in terms of Carbonate Systems, we have taken a naturally occurring process, carbonation, and have developed IP and know-how around accelerating that carbonation reaction to take different thermal residues, which I'll talk about more in a moment, as a means of permanent carbon capture. So it's a carbon capture utilization technology that also valorizes waste materials to manufacture product. We quite confidently talk about the technology being at a technology readiness level of 9, if you're familiar with those scales. We've licensed this in the UK and is in industrial operation in 3 large plants, each of them treating about 40,000 tons of input waste material, creating 80,000 tons or so of aggregates at the output. And we've since gone on to develop a containerized solution, the one you can see in the middle of the screen here, that plugs and plays directly into industrial operations. So we're working extensively with the cement industry, the waste to energy industry, biomass, paper and steel, amongst a few others, where we're capturing CO2 and treating waste materials to manufacture low carbon products. The next 2 slides I'll go through quickly. This is what we see as the status quo or the problem. The industry obviously makes the valuable products they make, but they release carbon dioxide and creates byproducts that often go to landfill as waste. And what we do is we combine those 2 streams together, the byproducts and the carbon dioxide, to manufacture different products. In terms of those benefits then to the industrial operators we're working with, and we've signed our first license agreement with Vicat as an example, a French cement manufacturer. The primary commercial driver is avoiding the cost of landfilling their waste material. So we offer a lower cost of treatment than the alternative of landfill. That's one of the real commercial drivers making our CCU technology available now and being deployed now in industry. The second aspect is linked to that, but being able to safely and permanently capture carbon dioxide. We stress permanence. Mineralization is one of the only recognized routes as a permanent means of capturing and sequestering carbon dioxide. And the last point there, in terms of closing the loop in the circular economy, we manufacture high value products, and what you can see in the hand there are some of the lightweight aggregates that we manufacture as a replacement for natural aggregates in concrete. So repeating what I said on that first slide, I think the main thing to focus in here is in the middle. We take that simple reaction, thinking about GCSE chemistry there, taking calcium oxides, reacting them with carbon dioxide to make a calcium carbonate. It's largely the calcium oxides, magnesium oxides, hydroxides and silicates that are reactive with CO2. And we engineer a reaction that takes 15 minutes as opposed to the many years and decades that natural carbonation would take. And in that process, we stabilize contaminants and heavy metals present in different types of residues and waste materials, reducing the pH of the system, and in that process, manufacturing a suitable product for an end market. The other point as well that I should stress within this is the exothermic nature of the reaction. And we operate at atmospheric temperatures and pressures, meaning we put very little energy into this means of carbon capture. And in that process, again, close the loop on taking waste material and manufacture product. So the left-hand side is what you can see as a typical feedstock for us, in that case, a fly ash. We carbonate it and manufacture things like lightweight aggregates on the right-hand side. But we also have a broader product development portfolio in terms of different unbound aggregate applications, so a substrate for green roofing, and also developing things like supplementary cementitious materials to replace cement in concrete mixes. It's a technology that can be applied across a range of different industries. Our main focus is in the energy from waste sector, cement, paper, biomass, and steel. And what binds these industries together is that they all produce a waste byproduct that contains the calcium oxides, magnesium oxides, hydroxides, and silicates that are reactive with carbon dioxide. So a lot of the early work we've done was in the energy from waste sector, where we have an industrial and commercial presence. And as I said earlier on, we've secured our first license with VCA in the cement industry and working with a number of other industries to take their waste and manufacture products using CO2. And the last point I'll make on this slide, the way we're doing that, I mentioned early on that we have built large scale plants, each of them treating 40,000 tons. They operate on pure bottled CO2. We've since developed our container system, which can operate on flue gas CO2. So in 2018, we demonstrated the first version of carbonation on a flue gas stream. So this is working with a cement company in Canada. We then built on that by deploying in the UK with Hansen, part of Heidelberg, and used those two deployments to optimize and automate the process. And that's resulted in our first commercial license with VCA, where we now have the container that you can see in this picture. It's currently being commissioned and in operation. So we're taking their cement bypass dust. We're using the CO2 directly from the flue stack, and we're carbonating to create aggregates, and therefore in that process making lower carbon concrete. Very happy for people to approach us virtually at the event and have a discussion about what we're doing, whether that's on the product side, so the building materials side, or if you're an industrial operator with waste materials, we'll be interested to know whether we can work with you and to carbonate them. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, James. Let's now welcome on stage the next company to present, which is Energy Dome. Energy Dome is an Italian company, so please let's welcome on stage Francesco.
Hi everybody, my name is Francesco Offici and I'm the Business Development Manager of Energy Dome. We are a startup funded in June 2019 with a mission, which is contributing to the solution of the climate change issue with a new breakthrough technology focused on utility scale energy storage to make solar PV and wind more dispatchable source of energy. Our technology is called CO2 battery. This is a totally innovative process that uses CO2 to store energy efficiently and cost effectively. The reason why we use CO2 is because it allows us to take the best out of CAES, compressed air energy storage, and LIFE, liquid air energy storage, overcoming their limitation, offering to the market a significant cost reduction in terms of cost of storage and a boost in round-trip efficiency. Compressed air energy storage has the problem that stores energy by compressing air, but compressed air still has very high volume of storage, which makes this technology either site-dependent or not cost competitive. Liquid air energy storage tries to overcome this limitation by liquefying the air, reaching very high energy density, having the air into the liquid phase. The problem of air is that it's liquid at minus 190 degrees C, which limits the round-trip efficiency of liquid air energy storage and increases its cost of storage. In our case, CO2 is a special fluid that can be liquid, but at ambient temperature if put under pressure. So we can reach very high energy densities, but reducing significantly the cost of storage. The irony of this is that we end up using CO2 to solve the climate change issue. But a very significant advantage of our system is that we have developed this technology in order to just use readily available off-the-shelf components from primary certified vendors, some of which you see listed in this slide. We come from this sector. We are an experienced team with a significant track record in the energy industry. Together, we already developed and built more than 460 megawatts of geothermal waste heat recovery CSP plants, as well as more than 80 biogas plants in Italy and worldwide. That's why we are a team capable of offering this solution to the market very soon. and offering a solution to the market which has significant advantages, including highly competitive levelized cost of storage for storage duration between 3 to 16 hours, competitive round-trip efficiency of more than 75% without degradation over time, a system with a project lifetime of easily more than 25 years without any capacity degradation over time, and a system that can be deployed anywhere without any site dependency. But most importantly, we make this just using off-the-shelf component, which significantly improve our go-to-market strategy, being able to offer our technology already next year as a commercially viable technology ready to change the world. Thank you very much for your attention. I will be happy to reply any of your questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Francesco. And now I'd like to welcome on stage the next company to present, which is Immaterial. Immaterial is a UK-based company. Edward, I'll pass the mic to you.
I'm here to talk to you about metal organic frameworks. You may not have heard of them yet, but you certainly will, and not just from me. From curing cancer to reversing climate change, turning desert humidity into clean, fresh drinking water, the inventor is a hot tip for the Nobel Prize, and they are widely regarded by those in the know as a technology that would define the next century. I'm Ed Bosson from Immaterial, and I'm going to tell you about the role we're playing in turning this into reality right now. So metal organic frameworks, or MOFs, are a class of advanced nanoporous materials that soak up gases like a sponge soaks up water. They are modular, meaning properties such as pore size, surface chemistry, and chemical stability can be tightly controlled simply by choosing the right building blocks. In this way, MOFs can be accurately tuned to filter, store, and, if required, subsequently release almost any gaseous substance. In fact, MOFs have been researched for over 20 years, and over 100,000 different MOFs have been identified. They offer a step change in performance over traditional adsorbents, such as zeolites and activated carbons. So what's the catch? Well, MOFs have always formed as powders that can be studied and demonstrated, but cannot be integrated into real-world systems involving any kind of gas flow or pressure. Efforts to pelletize them have not been successful, and the use of binders or pressure has led to pore blocking. Immaterial developed and patented the monolith, pure MOFs synthesized as macroscopic crystal pellets, offering up to 4 times the volumetric performance of the native powders. This is totally unique and enabling for the field. This is a platform technology and can be applied to any of the 100,000 MOFs, and we can unlock decades of research which only now becomes viable in real-world industrial processes. We've been very fortunate in that the world understands the significance of MOFs and of our technology as an enabler. We've experienced an acceleration effect and are now working in a range of industries and applications. To mention just a few, we're working with industry on world-scale gas separations, including, among other things, carbon capture, capturing CO2 from flue gas emissions produced by industry and the energy sector. What's more, one class of our materials is extremely effective at capturing CO2 directly from the air. Our materials can also facilitate the upgrading and purification of captured CO2, with applications here ranging from food and beverage to use in greenhouses. In hydrogen storage, Immaterial's monolithic MOFs have achieved superior volumetric storage over any other porous material. The ability to store large quantities of hydrogen at accessible pressures and temperature can transform the use case economics for the hydrogen economy. Heating, ventilation, and air conditioning uses 10% of global energy. Our materials can improve HVAC system efficiency by up to 60%. Not only this, we can use the heat of adsorption and desorption to drive next generation heat pumps. So practically, how do we address these challenges? Firstly, we work closely with our customers to identify their requirements before simulating thousands of MOF structures to rapidly identify the top performers for their application. We then take the leading MOFs and synthesize them as monoliths. We fully characterize their performance and identify the best material. In phase 3, the top performing monolith is produced on a larger scale for industrial prototyping. And upon successful prototyping, we work with one of our manufacturing partners to produce the required quantities in the time frame requested. There are a huge range of possibilities with these materials, but my 4 minutes is coming to an end. So if you found any of what I said interesting, please do get in touch. We would love to speak with you. Thank you.
Okay, fantastic, Edward. Thank you very much. And now let me welcome on stage the next company to present, which is Opus 12, which will be presented by Heidi. Heidi, I'll pass the mic to you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Heidi Lim, and I am the Director of Product Ecosystem at Opus 12. We're a company based in Berkeley, California that has developed a technology that recycles carbon dioxide into chemicals, materials, and fuels. At a high level, we take carbon dioxide and water as inputs into our system, and we use renewable energy to split up those molecules and rearrange them in the presence of a novel metal catalyst to make chemical building blocks that are today made typically from fossil fuels. At scale, this actually means that there could be 2 to 3 billion tons per year transformed into products that make up today a $300 billion petrochemicals industry. These are our 3 founders. Kendra and Natasha on the left and center here were at Stanford, where they published a groundbreaking paper that showed that there are 16 different chemicals that can be made in this type of process. And since then, we've grown to almost 50 people, and we are in our own facilities still in Berkeley, California. We're currently focused on 2 molecules, carbon monoxide and ethylene. Carbon monoxide is the basis of materials like polycarbonate, which is like the headlights in your car, or many other applications like electronics. And it's also used to make polyurethane, which is foam. So like the foam in a running shoe or the foam in a seat cushion. We could also make fuels like jet fuel out of CO. And we're also working on a pathway to ethylene, which is the basis of most modern plastics, other building materials, and other chemical formulations. Your life one day could actually be impacted by our technology. We can make so many things in your normal everyday life with carbon dioxide. So you could one day be flying across the Atlantic and flying on a carbon neutral flight and actually wearing clothes and carrying items that are made from carbon dioxide. Our carbon dioxide impact, we think about in 2 ways. So for every 1 ton of product we're making, we're actually converting CO2 directly as feedstock and also avoiding emissions related to a conventional production. So for every ton of ethylene, we're able to avoid 2 tons of CO2 emitted and converting 3 tons of CO2. So about 5-ton benefit. Our core technology is a membrane, and that membrane contains the metal catalyst I mentioned earlier, and it is a drop-in component to an existing reactor design called a water electrolyzer. And we are working with one of the world's largest manufacturers of water electrolyzers, and that allows us to take advantage of that high maturity and high energy efficiency of those systems. We have our first small-scale commercial units, the one on the left here, and we're currently scaling up to our first industrial units in the middle. That will allow us to convert tons per day scale of CO2 per day. And then from there, that's the module of scale for any larger plants that we make, where we're converting hundreds or thousands of tons per day of CO2 per site. We have a number of collaborations with brands that you may know. We worked with Daimler or Mercedes-Benz to produce the world's first automotive part last year, and we're working with the U.S. Air Force to make our first batch of jet fuel in the middle of this year. We've also worked with Shell and LanzaTech to make a batch of ethanol through our combined technologies, which can be upgraded also to jet fuel. we're really sitting in the center of a number of industries. So companies or categories of companies that need to reduce emissions, companies that need the products that we can make, and companies that have a need for large scale renewables. So you'll probably notice a lot of logos here across many different areas, and we are right in the middle of it. We've also raised over $40 million between private and public funding and are continuing to look for further partnerships. Thank you very much, and hope to connect with some of you soon.
Okay, thank you very much, Heidi. And now let me welcome on stage the last company to present today, which is Water Horizon. Water Horizon is a French-based company. So please let's welcome on stage Jean-Emmanuel. Jean-Emmanuel, I'll pass the mic to you.
Hi everyone, I'm Jean-Emmanuel Faure, the CEO of Water Horizon. Water Horizon is a 4-year-old company created in France, aimed to reconciliate industry and the environment. What we really aim to do is to propose a new solution of distribution of renewable energy, thermal renewable energy. But more important, we want to propose a service that is able to be competitive with fossil energy to really reconciliate industry and the environment. As you all know, there is a huge waste heat in Europe in the industry. It's the equivalent of 100 of nuclear reactors. It means that there is the equivalent of 100 nuclear reactors of waste heat produced by the industry and released to the nature. Water Horizon targets the waste heat between 100 degrees and 200 degrees, which is above 20% of the total amount of waste industrial heat, which means we are targeting the equivalent of 20 nuclear reactors of potential energy. What we want to do is reuse this energy to distribute it as renewable energy. In France, there is a Paris Agreement, and in Europe, there is a European Green Deal. Those two agreements want to propose solution to be able to have carbon neutrality in 20. To do so, the best way is to consume more renewable energy. And as we can see today, we are really late from what we expected only 2 years ago. What Water Horizon wants to do is to recover this waste heat and to propose a service of distribution of this waste heat as renewable energy. We want to do this with our technology, which is thermal storage technology. As we can talk about electric battery, we are developing a thermal battery. With our battery, we want to connect our battery to the waste heat site, recover the waste heat, charge our battery with the waste heat. When the battery is full, transport the battery within 10, 20, 30 kilometers. We don't need to go far to distribute at a remote consumer the energy stored as renewable energy. The technology has another major advantage, and I insist it is the same battery that recovers waste heat, store it, and the same battery is able to redistribute this energy as cold energy or hot energy or both, which allow us to find lots more consumers than only hot consumers, and to be able to find consumers that need 365 days long of energy. To talk about the concrete case we are currently working on is in France at La Rochelle. We want to recover the waste heat of an incinerator, recover the waste heat with our battery, transport the energy around 2.5 kilometers. So we don't need to go far to find a potential consumer. And we want to distribute this energy stored to the auction shed. The auction shed is a 20,000 square meter warehouse, cooled all along the year at 10 or 15 degrees in order to sell the fish that come from the fishers. We want to distribute renewable coal to the extension, and also we want to produce renewable ice in order to produce the ice for the fish. So that's a currently case we are working on in order to distribute at only 2.5 kilometers the energy that today is lost into the atmosphere. Today, Water Horizon is a 10-people team. We are 2 prototypes fully functional. We are currently closing fundraising in order to realize the industrial scale-up, in order to go from our prototype to a fully industrial battery that will be operational at the beginning of 2022. Thank you for your attention.
Thanks a lot, Jean-Emmanuel, for your very interesting pitch, and of course to all the startups that presented today. And now we'll move on to the pilot story of the day, and I'll leave it to Arianna to introduce the A2A team.
So thank you to the startups who have just presented today. We have been hearing a lot about pitches of startups. We've heard how important it is for corporates to really work together with startups. But probably you must be wondering, how does this magic comes to life? And today I would like to welcome on stage Guglielmo and Gaspar from A2A and Grey Parrot. Guglielmo and Gaspar, if you would like to introduce yourself.
Yeah, hello, Arianna. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me today. So I'm the innovation manager for the environment business unit at A2A. And in my role, I'm in charge of bringing new proposals within the company and the business unit, and to develop innovative projects that can have an impact on our business, both at the short term, at the mid and the long term. And in particular, I focus on opportunities to innovate in the waste management sector and also to create new circular economy opportunities.
Hi, and thank you, Arianna. Thank you for having me today. So I'm Gaspar Dutilleul. I'm project manager at Grey Parrot, and I am in charge of the coordination of the project between Grey Parrot and our partners at technical and commercial level, now especially managing proof of concept projects supporting our product development.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for introducing yourself. And you know, one of the most important issues that we're having in the circular economy is the waste management. We're all facing it. We've heard yesterday also during our Food and Beverage Expo, and it's so important to really turn the resources into useful material. But how do we really do that? So, you know, when we were discussing with Guglielmo, we were thinking, which is really the critical point that has been identified, you know, in the waste management chain. Guglielmo, I don't know if you can tell us a little bit more about this.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as you know, A2A is probably the largest Italian company dealing with waste management, and one of the largest at European level. And of course, we are very much aware that the industry of waste management still needs some improvement that can come from new technologies and also from the digitization of the current processes. And in particular, what we focus on in the project with Grey Parrot has been the fact that we are very much aware that the waste collection process could be improved even more by implementing new solutions to select materials in the proper way and create more homogeneous waste stream that can be then directed to recycling, for example. And that has to be done to create the maximum possible value, to extract the maximum possible value from waste that we collect and process in our plants. But of course, before being capable of selecting the materials and then extracting the value from the waste streams that we collect, we need to be able to increase the level of understanding of what we actually process through our plants and the exact composition of what is passing through our plants, so that we can then fine-tune and optimize the selection process. And that's exactly what we focus on with Grey Parrot. So trying to deploy on our plants a solution that can tell us with very high precision and in real time the exact composition of the waste, in particular the plastic waste stream that passes through our plants. And of course, in Grey Parrot, we found a company that can provide a very interesting solution that really fits with this specific need.
Maybe Gaspar, now you want to tell us a little bit more about Grey Parrot, and so that we understand better in the details your activity.
Yes, of course. So we at Grey Parrot are a software company based in London. And so we provide a waste analytics software to help waste managers take better data-driven decisions and ultimately increase the recycling rates. So we are trying to avoid waste going into landfill and believe that to achieve that, the industry needs to be more digitized, more automated, and more informed. So our aim is really to empower the waste managers, but also the producers and the regulators with better data analytics to transition us to a circular economy. So concretely, our solution, our product, is composed of a hardware that is placed on top of moving conveyor belts in the sorting and recycling facilities, an AI computer vision-based software that analyzes the composition of waste and outputs the results on a real-time dashboard that is available to the waste managers. So our vision is really to create a world where waste is treated as a resource. So it is monitored, it is captured, and it is reused in the most effective way. So a few words that would summarize well the problematic we are tackling at Grey Parrot is what is not measured cannot be optimized. And so this is why we really want to provide the data that is lacking in the waste industry currently.
And Gaspar, let's stay with you. You know, you're a startup from London. You came and worked with an Italian multi-utility, the largest one. How was the relationship with A2A? And then I'm already anticipating that I would like to hear the same from Guglielmo's point of view.
Sure. So yes, working through this project with A2A has since the very beginning been an enriching and very valuable experience for us. The thing is they really understood what we want to achieve as a company and why. And because of that, there has always been a real exchange between Grey Parrot and A2A. So we had continuously feedback, valuable feedback on our solution and our approach. And this helped us maximizing the value of the project for both companies. So for us as a software company, you know, it's very important to work with people who are directly involved in the waste management industry, being close to the field and its everyday problematics, but at the same time to understand the importance of innovating and actively looking to implement new solutions to improve the business and the way things are currently done. So Guglielmo and the team at A2A really understand the need to go through innovation and digitization to accelerate positively the change in the industry. And that's the fact, I believe that we share this understanding and the willingness to act toward this change that really makes this collaboration work. So there is really a final goal that we share as companies, which is to have a real positive impact on the environment, looking to close the loop of circularity, in our case by treating waste as a resource and unlocking its potential. So I believe that through this project, we have been able with A2A to build a foundation for a long-term relationship. And we are, of course, looking to continue the work with A2A.
Thank you. And Guglielmo, instead, what, from your point of view, from your perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you very much, Gaspar, for the very nice words. I think the relationship with Grey Parrot has been always very positive indeed, and actually it grew through the project itself. And I would say that's not an obvious thing because as a company, as a large corporate, of course, we are very eager to, you know, extract the maximum value from any relationship. And of course, we are very keen to get positive outcomes from our projects. And of course, the startups themselves need to keep up with the pace of our projects that are typically very fast. And I think Great Parrot has been capable of doing so, and also they delivered a very successful result from the project that we did together, and their system has been proven to be very effective and delivering the high precision rates in the recognition of the materials of the plastic in our plants that we were aiming for. And of course, you know, that has been due to a very strong technical team that they have, and also I would say that has been also thanks to a very competent and talented CEO that the company has. And of course, you know, the project itself has been very, very important at the short term, but also from a long-term perspective, we understood that the value proposition of Great Parrot was really fitting with our need of digitizing the waste management industry and our processes, and that's why we also wanted to, you know, invest in Great Parrot as a company, because they really share with us also a very strong vision for the future for a better industry. So very positive relationship, and I also I'm very confident that there's going to be a very bright future ahead.
So I loved how what came up is that first of all you shared a common goal, and so from a pilot then became also an investment from your CVC perspective, and how communication was key in being transparent and direct and fast. And I think that this is something that sometimes is taken for granted, but it should not be. The importance of having, you know, a very smooth interaction in between startups and corporates, and very much at the same level, so a very direct one. Well, thank you so much for sharing. And I would like also to add the fact that also Great Parrot is also a plug and play portfolio companies. We have shared this together with A2A, so a very good results, I would say, quite impressive. But now I would like to, you know, to stay with you, Guglielmo, and I would like to understand better, how do you feel that these digital technologies can really help increase the awareness, you know, among citizens and corporates?
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, you know, I think that, you know, the capacity of digitizing the waste collection process is very essential for companies also like us. As I was explaining earlier on, it is very important to be capable of having solid data sets to really take informed decision. How do we want to develop more our services towards, you know, the citizens and the communities that we serve? So I would say that we are in the first place, you know, a company that benefits a lot by, you know, digital technology and the capacity of extracting data. But of course, you know, at the same time, I think that the same processes, the digital technologies and data really help, you know, the citizens that we serve to really understand, for example, how the waste management process works, what they can do on their side, and also as a first step of the collection process, what they can really do to make an impact, to have an impact in the way waste is collected and managed properly. So that's the reason why, alongside working with companies like Great Parrot, we're also very keen in better looking into other technologies, for example, blockchain. And we see blockchain as a very effective way of sharing data through the supply chain. So from the citizens to the companies as A2A and AMSA that collect the waste, through the companies downstream that really continue in the process of managing waste. That's a very effective way of bringing transparency to the waste supply chain and really make every single actor aware of what's going on. And of course, as such, also citizens can be aware of what their good behavior in selecting waste and managing waste properly at their home ends up at the end of the chain in recycled materials that perhaps goes back into new product that they can use. So I think that's a very powerful idea, a very powerful solution that can really produce benefits through the awareness process, can really produce tangible benefits in the way waste is managed more and more successfully in the future.
Thank you, Guglielmo. And I like how this, for those of you who have participated also yesterday, really follows also the conversation that we had with Fabio Fiorelli from Esselunga. And, you know, Gaspar, you are a technology company. What do you feel? How do you feel this is really embedded in your mission at the end of the day to increase awareness among citizens? How is Grey Parrot really working toward this goal?
Yes, exactly. So yes, to follow up on what Guglielmo said, for us, data is information, and without data, citizens and corporates cannot have a clear vision on the industry and take informed decision. So at Grey Parrot, our goal is really to collect this data and make it available to the industry stakeholders at every level of the value chain. So talking about awareness and considering, for example, the consumers first, I think that in the waste industry, there might be, sometimes a perception or an idea that countries or local authorities are not recycling enough, or that the recycling is not performing enough. So we want to provide continuous and accurate data so that people have an informed vision of the industry. It can be an incentive for citizens and corporate to also play their part better. If, for example, you believe that regardless of the time you spend sorting your waste, a huge part of it will go into landfill, you can lose the motivation to do it. But if you have precise information on how well the recovery facility and the recycling facilities are performing, it will push you to take your responsibility as well and do your part, because this has a real impact that is measured and you are informed about it. So we can also take as an example that as citizen, we can decide if we want to buy products only for brands that are using recyclable packaging, or we can decide to sort our recyclable waste. But we should not assume that because the packaging is recyclable, it is being recycled. And because we decide to sort our waste, they are actually being recycled. So the truth is that we need the data to track the packaging further than just the collection point, to be sure of that. And we need the data to, during the recovery and the recycling processes, to close the loop and take fully informed decisions. So exactly as Guglielmo mentioned, the same applies to the company, and even more maybe to the companies, because as individuals we are still we still tend to take to act following our personal ideas and behavior, but company and corporates really need the data to take decisions that influence the company strategy.
Thank you, Gaspar, and I like how this is really tied to many our corporate sustainability program. And one last question for you, Guglielmo. I was wondering, how do you think this really relates and fits with the Smart Cities projects?
Yeah, Ariana, I think that waste recovery is definitely going to be a key part, a very essential part of the smart cities of tomorrow, and that's going to be increasingly relevant to make the best possible use of waste that we manage within the cities and really extract the value from them according to the circular economy principle. And of course, as of today, as a company, we're already delivering solutions towards the city and the citizens. For example, in Milan, of course, we are implementing algorithm that will optimize the routing process. And so the capacity of our fleet of vehicles to effectively and efficiently collect waste home after home in Milan. Of course, we did deploy smart bins in Milan. So bins that can be used at street level from passenger, from tourists, and they can deploy their waste within the bins, and we can be aware of the filling level of the bins and be responsive and promptly intervene to of course empty that bin. So improving, of course, the quality of the service for the city of Milan. And of course, we're thinking about what's going to be next. And of course, we are looking into the capacity of adding new sensors that can be able to track our vehicles, but also, for example, provide additional services to the city through our vehicles that going through the city could become a sort of hub that really interacts with the city and collects new data, collects new information that can be used then to deploy new services to the city itself. And of course, at the same time, following up to what we discussed earlier about the awareness of the citizens, we really think that also improving, the level of knowledge could pass through some solution that we can deploy, perhaps even at home level, so that the citizens could really get a better feeling of the way they are sorting their waste and also what they can do to improve the collection rate. As you know, the collection rates, for example, in Milan are already very high for Italian standards, but there is something that we can do to improve even more the collection rates. So I think that, deploying solutions for the smart city is very key, and we are really doing a lot in that direction. But of course, at the same time, as I mentioned earlier, we also can do something more to increase the awareness of the citizens and their capacity to do their part of the job for a better city of tomorrow. Thank you.
No, thank you. And with that note, I guess, we are coming to the end, but I was very happy to be able to share with everyone how, a strong collaboration can grow in between, two different entities. And now we're working together with the common goal to increase awareness, increase, the quality of our waste sorting, collection, and then bringing them into a circular economy. I would like to thank you, Gaspar, Guglielmo, for your insights. And we're gonna move to our next session.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I would like now to move and welcome on stage Alessandro Leonardi from Poste Italiane, who is actually the responsible for Open Innovation Customer Innovation Hub. Thank you very much, Alessandro.
Good evening to everyone. My name is Alessandro Leonardi, and I am the head of the Open Innovation of Poste Italiane Group, a leading multi-business company that spread widely from the financial services to insurance to parcel and logistics, digital services, and last but not least, postal services. I'm very proud to be with you again, and I would like to thank Andrea Zorzetto and all the Plug and Play team for our lasting relationship and for the stage today. As a matter of fact, we are growing faster in the innovation path in the last 2 years, thanks to some great contributors of the external innovative ecosystem, and we strongly believe in Plug and Play as the best partner to international exposure and contamination. 2 years ago, we joined Plug and Play startup AUCTA in Stuttgart, because at that time, our main focus in the last strategic plan, Delivery 2020, was on logistics and mobility. They help us to identify great opportunities and trends and draw our strategic and tactical activities that allow us to fully achieve the strategic plan challenges.
Thank you for your kind words, Alessandro. As you mentioned, you start with Startup AUCTA in Stuttgart, and now you moved down to Italy and you joined the sustainability program. How come did you decide to do so?
The first half of 2020 with the COVID-19 outbreak was a defining moment in the history of our country as well as for our company. We all at Poste Italiane showed a strong commitment and social responsibility to our country recovery and overcome process. Poste Italiane people managed to ensure uninterrupted business while supporting all stakeholders, especially those who were mostly impacted by the emergency, like little local communities and people with strong limitations, like elderly and disabled and non-autonomous people. The benefit of business diversification and operational excellence and resilience were confirmed in the emergency of the environment created by the COVID-19 pandemic. As a result of our social exposure and activities, we reinforce the idea that sustainability of our business and social responsibility should drive the new 4-year strategic plan Sustain and Innovate 2024 that has been presented last March to our stakeholder and to the business community. Sustainability and innovation become therefore the pillars from which to start the recovery. The new plan aims to bring about responsible growth and drive Italy's sustainability and social integrity through innovation and digitization by setting financial, operational, and sustainability objectives. Among all goals, particular importance is attached to the group's objective in fighting climate change in the short, medium, and long term, aiming at becoming carbon neutral by 2030, thus contributing in advance to the European objective in this area.
And Alessandro, what are the main areas of interest for you in the sustainability program?
We moved back to Italy in Milan vertical sustainability to specialize in topics of sustainable industrial operation, supply chain, and process optimization. In collaboration with startups involved, we are focusing on the following topics: electric and shared mobility, energy, climate and resources, sustainable industrial operation, and last, circularity and new materials.
So these 4 areas for sure are aligned with what we are looking for, all together with also the other corporate partners. Instead, what are the expectations from, the program itself, from joining Plug and Play? What are you looking forward to achieve?
Be part of Plug and Play sustainability program is a chance for us to see which startup join our specific innovation needs. Anyway, also is a good occasion to know new trends and challenges in the sustainability space. And of course, it's also a chance to connect with other corporate partners with whom we would like to share and compare mutual experiences on green and sustain goals.
And last question before we close up. What are the main objectives for you as an open innovation team?
Basically, we follow 2 main objectives: willingness to develop the contamination and transfer of experiences with partners close to the environmental and sustainability issues of their businesses, such as A2A and Buzzi Unicem. Desire to rediscover the dimension of our mother country, Italy, in order to be even closer to the specific needs of our territories after such difficult moments for the population and for the Italian economy and the entrepreneurial context, and be a boost for the relaunching of Italian economy with a strong view to green and sustainable development.
Thank you so much, Alessandro, for your words. We were really happy to have and to be able to work with Poste Italiane.
Looking forward to meeting you again in presence in Milan. I wish all of you a good job. Bye.
And now I would like to welcome back on stage Andrea, who's not going to be alone this time, but he has a guest. They're going to be telling you about something that we've been working behind the scenes. Andrea, stage is yours.
Thanks a lot to all the startups that have pitched. Very insightful, very interesting. Congratulations to you all. And now we're moving on to a very special session. It's actually a bit of a novelty that we're introducing at this summit, in the sense that Vincenzo, that I'm going to introduce in a moment, is going to tell you about a book on the Italian startup ecosystem that he has put together. This is an initiative that I've supported both personally and on behalf of Plug and Play Italy. And why did we do this? Of course, as you know, our mission is to help the Italian ecosystem grow. And this means both support the best founders, the best startups to grow, and also help the big corporates innovate and leverage the potential that startups offer to improve their business models. And in this sense, we found very interesting the idea by Vincenzo to go out and ask the most interesting players in the Italian ecosystem what their experiences are, their insights, and how startups should approach this ecosystem. And of course, you'll find in the list also some of the partners that we work with at Plug and Play. And having said this, so Vincenzo Giardino, who's with us today, He has a ton of experience in the startup ecosystem, in the sense he is an advisor to many startups and board member for important companies. He has contributed to numerous articles and publications in the ecosystem, and he also manages a boutique financial advisory firm. And Vincenzo, thanks a lot for joining us today. And can you tell us a bit more about the book and why you thought it's important to have this contribution to the Italian ecosystem?
Yeah, sure. Andrea, first of all, thank you for your kind introduction, your fantastic support, and for having provided me with the possibility to present this book in a such fantastic event here in Plug and Play. As you already introduced, so far the book is in Italian, but the English version of the title is something like stories about startup from A to Z, something more like. And its aim is to provide the reader with a clear view on the ecosystem orbiting around the phenomenon of doing business, let's say doing innovative business. When I developed the idea of preparing this book, I immediately decided to create something, let's say, unconventional. I mean, I would say outside the box. I mean, it's not the classic book, as you told us, written by me, but written with me. I mean, I select 26 hot keywords and distribute them along the letter of the alphabet. Then I ask to some of the main and established also stakeholders for the startup ecosystem, Italian startup ecosystem, to think about them and to tell me their story on this specific topic. And this is the meaning of the title of this book. I don't want to unveil the secret contents of this book, but at the same time, I would be glad, let's say, to provide with some flavors of the topic. I would say it's an innovative guide dedicated to innovators and to entrepreneurs. I can say a compass for orienting oneself into the troubled sea of startups. In this book, we will describe the adventure of every innovative enterprise within our ecosystem, starting from its birth, moving through the development, and then the adaptation, and then hopefully reaching its success. All the chapters of the book have the peculiarity of representing a standalone element, which can be consulted with a free order of reading. For example, you can just start with S, which is the seed topic, and then go back to B, which is the business plan, and then move again forward to letter U, for example, the fantastic unicorn. So I'm sure that either you are a startupper with a white t-shirt or a senior manager of a large international company, or just a curious of the matter, you will enjoy the reading. The style of the book is direct and ready to understand, with tons of insights, false myths, quotes, and case studies from those who first contributed to the birth of our sector. I think that many of the authors today are connected to this event. So Andrea, this is the story behind the book.
Thanks a lot, Vincenzo. Very interesting. And, you know, I think that part of the challenge that we face as the Italian ecosystem is that because it's not so developed, it's very hard to find material or case studies from Italian players. We read so much about what happens in the US, in Northern Europe or Israel, but it's very hard to learn from those that are actually playing a big role in the Italian ecosystem today. So I think that having this collection is incredibly useful. And of course, I already know the list of authors, and I can vouch for the importance and the experience of the players that are going to contribute. But again, we don't want to spoil any of the names. So of course, this is going to be revealed soon. And speaking of this, Vincenzo, can you give us a bit more detail about when the book will be published and when we get a chance to read it?
Okay, thank you, Andrea, again. So the book basically will be published by Egea. Egea is one of the main Italian publishing company, and it will be available, let's say, online in bookstore in July, mid-July. So today is just a super early bird announcement. The official launch will take place with a physical event on July 21 in Milan, with also a startup competition and a nice networking aperitif on a fantastic terrace. So I just have to wish you a good reading.
Well, that is great, and of course we're all looking forward to meeting in person and sharing an aperitivo. And so this sounds like a great occasion to do that. So thanks a lot, Vincenzo, and to all the participants today. Make sure you stay tuned for updates on the book. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hi, everyone. This is Flavia from the Ventures team here at Plug and Play Italy. I'll be now calling on stage Daniele from Mapo Tapo. Mapo Tapo is a company that went through our early stage program, Sparks. Sparks is a program meant to support early stage companies in testing and growing their ideas with the dedicated support of the PMP International and National team. Daniele, when you're ready, please take the stage.
Hi everybody, I'm Daniele and I'm a rock climber. Did you know there are 25 million rock climbers in the world and 150 million extreme sport enthusiasts? We love to practice our favorite sport on holiday, and this creates a huge market worth more than 50 billion. It's not easy though, because you need a buddy to go climbing, and often it's quite difficult to find. It's already difficult to find a travel buddy, somebody with the same holiday, same budget, same hobbies. Just think about finding someone for practicing a sport that requires also certain technique. So is there anybody yet out there trying to solve this problem? Yes, there are. The thousands of small alpine guides companies which offer trips or experiences to a group of people. The problem is that the market is so fragmented that often these trips are not confirmed due to the lack of minimum number of participants. And here, Mapo Tapo comes into play. Mapo Tapo, we design organized group trips for extreme sport lovers, starting from rock climbers. Within our community, we aggregate travelers in group, while the actual experience is managed by the local guides and local hosts. We focus on areas that are off the beaten track and where the development of climbing can actually make the difference for local community. So is it just another travel aggregator? Not at all, because at the heart of Mapo Tapo resides its community. Our trips and our community reinforce each other. On one side, our trips are a huge source of media contents and they create deep bonds among the users, while on the other, our community boosts word of mouth and SEO, and it creates a valuable brand. But most importantly, they both contribute to create a sustainable business model. On the trip side, we have 6 travelers on average per trip, which are spending 600 euro each. This leads to a more than 3K of gross merchandise value with a 20% net revenue target. On the community side, we tested 4 different community monetization channels, which are advertisement, media house, merchandise, and a subscription model. So we were born in August 2020, and despite COVID, we already got great initial traction. We created a community made by more than 12K climbers worldwide. We won the first prize at INSEE Adventure competition, and we got admitted to the B4I acceleration program with a 30K investment. In just 2 months from the launch, in the short summer window that COVID gave us, we got 35 bookings for our trips, completing the first 4 trips with stellar reviews. Then the second lockdown hit, but of course, we didn't stop. Instead, we pre-sold 25K of orders for our book, The Climbing Travel Guide, from over 40 countries in the world. We opened our B2B channel, placing 10K in ads placement, major outdoor brands. Last but not least, we recently launched our summer season, and in just 5 weeks, we already got 76 people booking their climbing holiday with us for this summer, generating more than 40K of gross merchandise value. So, but why you should believe in us? Well, we're an ambitious and concrete team. I co-founded Mapo Tapo last spring after quitting my job at Amazon, together with Alessia, with a strong background in McKinsey. After a while, Alfredo joined the team as a CTO. Andrea, Antonio, and Faustine complete the team with a strong knowledge of the outdoor industry and, of course, a great passion about extreme sport traveling. So what's our goal? We want to validate our business model in one vertical first, which is rock climbing, and then expand to all the other extreme sport. But how we're going to make this possible? Well, we're now raising our first pre-seed round of 300K to make this a reality. But the true question is, why now? That COVID has been destroying the travel industry. Let's be honest, travel is starting again. We spotted a trend of getting away from the crowd before COVID, and this trend cannot be but reinforced when COVID will be history. So the extreme sport travel market is a very fragmented market worth 50 billion. We have the right team to capture this opportunity, and we got great initial traction despite COVID. We're now raising 300K for our pre-seed round, and we believe that an Italian startup can be the one to disrupt the extreme sport travel industry. We just need your help to make this a reality. Thank you very much, and happy to answer to any of your questions.